Welcome, dear listeners. I'm Jonathan Carlin.
And I'm Benjamin Carlin.
And we invite you to join us through the Griffin door, your one-way ticket to the enchanting world of Harry Potter. So grab your wands and dust off your broomsticks and join us as we unlock the riddles inside Goblet of Fire, Chapter 27, Padfoot Returns.
Oh, man. I don't know if you remember or not, because when we look at this chapter art, it's the thing I'm diving into right away.
That is, yeah.
Do you recall back in Prisoner of Azkaban, there was a piece of chapter art where we were very unsure as to whether or not it was supposed to be Lupin or Sirius?
I do remember.
Do you feel like this confirms that it's Sirius?
No.
You went the other way.
I feel like makes me think, look, I literally wrote down, makes me think the POA was Lupin. So maybe it doesn't help.
We nearly had the best setup that we hadn't discussed.
I know. I was like, okay, good thing. Now we know that one was Lupin. This one's Sirius. That's the difference. We should put them side by side because we're doing it mostly on memory.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
It would be good to see what they really look like when you just kind of like merge them together there. But apparently we had completely different memories based on how that chapter art looks.
We sure did because I was like, okay, good. We have an answer. We know. Because the reason it matters, not like super big deal or anything, but if it's Lupin, then it means that like Lupin as a werewolf is looks more like a regular wolf. You know, as opposed to what you think of in the movie where he's kind of like on his hind legs.
Right. And I don't really have a whole lot of trouble believing that there were other interpretations of what a werewolf might look like prior to the Prisoner of Azkaban film. Especially because there's like that line that like Hagrid was raising like werewolf cubs.
Werewolf pups under his bed, which we know is what happens. Is that what happens when two werewolves mate when they're both transformed?
Yes.
Is that the resulting offspring are just hyper intelligent wolf pups?
Wolves. I mean, at what point do they just become dire wolves?
I know, right?
Like,
it seems like that's a whole different breed.
It does.
Yeah.
It does. Yeah.
Okay. Headcanon is that's the Harry Potter version of dire wolves. But that can happen. And then the other thing that makes me think that it's more like a regular wolf, and there's two other things, more like a regular wolf and less like what you see in Prisoner of Azkaban, is that when you hear the Marauders talking about their defense against the dark arts exam, one of the questions is like, how to tell the difference between a werewolf and a regular wolf.
Right.
Which makes it sound like they look very similar, because like otherwise it'd be like one's giant and on two legs, you know?
Yeah. Well, there's a specific beast, and I wish I had it off the top of my head now, but it's like a Jack Russell Terrier, but the magical version of it has like a forked tail.
Yeah.
You know, and it's sort of like it's otherwise a Jack Russell Terrier.
Krupp? Is that what
a Krupp? Yeah, I believe that is right. Yeah. Absolutely. So there you go. So I wonder how often that's the case, where there's like a very mild variation between,
Yeah. Well, there's also then, if you go to Wizarding World, there's like, I think on the article in the Pottermore archives about Animagus, there is artwork at the top that shows the Marauders in their transformed states, and it's and Sirius and Lupin indeed look very similar in terms of being like four-legged. They just look like a wolf.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So there we go. So I guess it all depends on where you hail to your canon.
Yeah.
As far as your werewolf depiction.
Indeed.
But anyway, so hilarious that we ended up having a big werewolf conversation on a chapter that's largely about Sirius.
Indeed. Yeah. Well, the chapter, we both had the exact same thought about it. So anyway, let's go ahead and dive in to the chapter. I'm in such a Harry Potter mood. We were just at Epic Universe for the grand opening this past week.
It was so cool. For the very first time, we got to see the Phelps twins and Warwick Davis.
Yes.
Which was really, really cool. The new Ministry of Magic building is just breathtaking.
It is so cool. I mean, it is very much like you are right there.
It is. I mean, like you almost feel like Michael Gambon as Albus Dumbledore could just like materialize through the flue powder, and him and Voldemort are just gonna like
having a big old duel.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is rather glorious. So huge Harry Potter mindset, which when it really comes down to it, we pretty much always are.
Pretty much always are anyway.
Harry Potter mindset. Anyway.
All right. So anyway,
kick off with our first line. Yeah.
Padfoot returns. So it kicks off as ever. One of the best things about the aftermath of the second task was that everybody was very keen to hear the details of what happened down the lake, which meant that Ron was getting to share Harry's limelight for once. And then the dragons arrived. So Ron does not get much time sharing that limelight.
That really, when you apply it to this particular sentence, it sounds an awful lot like the dragons arrived to attack Ron.
Yeah, they're like, specifically, this story is about Harry.
He is the chosen one. We get that Horntail gave him a pass.
Exactly. Poor Ron.
I know. But the other thing I really like that I really think hammers home how uneventful it is to actually be a spectator for the Triwizard Tournament is the fact that it says everyone was very keen to hear the details of what had happened down in the lake. And it's like, I mean, I know that we harp on this a whole lot and it's kind of been like a running joke on our channel for years now, but it's like, I mean, that line right there, like there are mega stands surrounding the lake, specifically there to like witness the Triwizard Tournament. Mm-hmm. And what this means, and you have to realize is that everybody dives into the water and then they don't see anything else.
Right. I know. At best, you got to see them cast the spells before they went under the water.
Exactly. And or laugh at Harry maniacally as he struggles with his gillyweed and then also ends up getting, basically top marks.
I know. Yeah. Come on, guys. You think Harry didn't figure it out? I mean, he didn't, but you don't know that.
You don't know that. Yeah, exactly. I mean, assume the best in him, obviously. Exactly. So I do think that that's really funny, though, because it means that Ron basically has full license to tell any story he wishes, and nobody's any the wiser as to what their role might be.
Right. Other than, his other best friend, Hermione, who the same thing happened to.
Also that. Yeah. Yes. And it's also kind of funny that everybody thinks it's so hilarious that Hermione was the thing that Crumb would miss most, which again, it's like it's going to say that like everybody was like giving her a hard time for that being the case. And it's like, I don't think you guys are understanding like what typically happens when a very well-known, talented, famous person like chooses like a partner. It's like when has it ever been the case in all of history that it's like, oh, let's laugh at that person?
I know. I know.
That is hilarious.
I know. It'd be like, can you imagine, like if like a girl in your high school was like dating Justin Bieber or something.
Right.
It'd be like, wow, so lame. To be like, what are you talking about?
It's like,
what on earth are you talking about?
Right. Yeah. I'm going on a world tour. So
so whatever, guy.
So anyway, we'll get to that here in just a moment. But it is funny that like Ron is sort of, you can tell that he's wanted it so badly for so long because each retelling of the story, he is starting to get further and further from what actually happened.
Right.
To the point where Ron is telling a thrilling tale of kidnapping, in which he struggled single-handedly against 50 heavily armed merpeople who had beat him into submission before tying him up.
Yeah.
To which it's kind of like one of those stories where I'm like, I can't imagine anybody would be so thick as to believe this.
I know. I'm like, Ron, and go ahead and embellish a little bit if you want to, I guess, because, you're getting some attention here. But like, this is already an unbelievable story, not because you defeated them, which is kind of unbelievable, because they can't get on land, dude. They're stuck in the water. How are they getting you?
Right. Yeah.
This is like your story doesn't make sense.
Ron's like, I was out in the Black Lake swimming laps as I sometimes do. Yeah. When they sucked me under.
Yeah.
And also Hermione and Gabrielle and Cho just happened to be nearby.
What do you know? Of course, and you may have noticed I swim in my robes, which who doesn't?
Natural drag.
Creates a drag in the water, builds the muscles better,
That's right.
Yeah. But I like that Padma Patil is a little bit more interested in him, and he seems like maybe he's a little more interested in her as well.
Right.
I know. And then it says, I could have taken those idiots anytime I wanted, which then I'm like, but you didn't because you wanted to get kidnapped. You wanted to be tied up. You wanted to be at the bottom of the lake. You were okay with this happening because...
For Harry.
For Harry, exactly.
I was being a good friend. Yes. Because secondary to this Mur kidnapping that I endured, there also happened to be a second task going on that just, coincided.
It coincided,
right? Yeah. What are the odds?
Exactly.
So obviously it's just pure silliness.
This sentence is also a weirdly important sentence. You wouldn't think of it, but I'll just read it. It says, "But I had my wand hidden on my sleeve," he assured Padfoot Patil, who seemed a lot keener on Ron now he was getting so much attention, and was making a point of talking to him every time they passed in the corridors. Boom. Okay. That's the sentence. That one sentence right there that you just forget even happened. You're like, oh, wait a second. Ron talked to Padfoot Patil ever again? That sentence sets up an entire alternate timeline in The Cursed Child.
Oh, yes.
Right?
Wherein Ron and Padma end up together.
Yes.
Yeah. Turns out they actually, were quite keen, but then maybe Lavender just
have kids.
Swoops in.
Ponjo or something? Is that his name?
Ooh,
I want to say.
This is a piece of trivia.
I know. That's why I remember that it even happens.
Tremendously terrible app.
Yeah, but there you go. Apparently they were a little into each other, but whatever. And then sure enough, here's Hermione. Says people had been teasing her so much about the thing that Victor Crumb would miss the most that she was rather in a tetchy mood.
Yeah, a tetchy mood, which is it's a $5 word there, tetchy.
I literally wrote good word.
Yeah. yes. Same page. I love it. Let's see here. Then we are getting a letter from Sirius. We get like a bit of a response to figure out like what's going to happen next or in that little saga there. The brown owl that Harry had sent to Sirius has returned, and it looks like it's a little bit worse for wear. It's got feathers sticking up in the wrong direction every which way. Sirius has yet another kind of short note here. It says, "Be at the stile at the end of the road of Hogsmeade, past Dervish and Banshees at 2:00 on Saturday afternoon. Bring as much food as you can."
I love the bring as much food as you can.
Yeah.
I can't say anything but bring all the food you can carry, just like I'm so hungry.
I am living off of rats.
Yes, which we will come to, which I feel like is no accident that he's eating rats.
None whatsoever.
Yeah.
Yes, very on the nose.
I'll also just note that it says, as they entered March, the weather became drier, to which I was like, what on earth world are you living in?
Oh, yeah. I don't know if this is just like a difference in climate, but March, not a notoriously dry month where we live.
Nope.
Yeah.
No, it's not. Very rainy.
Yes.
And what I don't know a ton about the weather in the greater Scotland or England area, but I feel like the stereotype is that it rains a lot.
Yes.
So I'm surprised that during the raining season it's drier at Hogwarts, but
that's right. Yeah.
Whatever.
This does cause a little bit of like a shocked reaction out of the trio because it's like, they're kind of like, wow, he has risked coming back to Hogsmeade. Of course, then Harry immediately puts this burden on himself, and he's like, I can't believe him if he's caught. And then Ron sort of assures him, he's like, made it so far though, hasn't he? And it's not like the place is swarming with Dementors anymore, which is just also kind of interesting. When you think about it, because it's obvious that all of Prisoner, the big plot is that there are Dementors all around the castle. And obviously there is the big incident where they swoop in and attack innocent students. And that's a big no-no as far as the ministry is concerned. So, no more Dementors, but also it doesn't really seem like there's any other heightened security at all. It's like the wizarding world is just sort of like the media cycle has just moved past Sirius
Black. Yeah. Like everyone's sort of like, oh yeah, Sirius got really close and we almost captured him literally on the school grounds, but he got away. So I guess he's just not a threat anymore. And it's like, guys, if anything, you need some security still, right? As far as you're concerned, he's still at large.
Right. And it is the case that former classmate of his, Bertha Jorkins, has gone missing. So should we put two and two together? I mean, not that Sirius is responsible or anything, but it would be so like the wizarding world to assume it was him.
Yes, it would be like the wizarding world. And as far as they're concerned, he's now gotten into the castle twice,
Yeah.
And, if I was the students, I don't know why you'd stop being afraid.
No, I know. Yeah. It definitely seems like this would still be an at-large situation. But Harry folds up the letter thinking that if he was honest with himself, he really did want to see Sirius again. This is sort of just that classic thing that Harry's always going through.
If I'm honest with yourself, Harry, I think you really want to see Lupin again, but whatever.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Look at you go.
Yeah.
I mean, but can you even tell the difference between the two?
Apparently not. Not in illustration form.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. What do we got?
Next up, we have they're on their way to double potions, where Malfoy, Crabbe, and Goyle were standing in a huddle outside the classroom door with Pansy Parkinson's gang of Slytherin girls, and they're all looking at something Harry can't see and sniggering heartily because, in case you were wondering, Malfoy definitely also has a subscription to Witch Weekly.
I swear that this is, I don't even know if cleverly written is the right phrasing for it, but it's like, I feel like what is happening here is we have now switched media outlets from the Daily Prophet to Witch Weekly, which means that now it needs to be a Pansy Parkinson situation.
Exactly.
That she's got this edition, but I think we can all agree that it's very likely that Malfoy probably keeps a copy under his pillow.
Here's the thing. Snape is about to come and read the article in question aloud to the class, and he's like, but of course Potter has to keep up with his press clippings. And I'm like, I'm sorry. If anyone is keeping up with Potter's press clippings, it's Draco Malfoy.
It's Draco. He's got like a bulletin board.
He's got like a scrapbook, you know.
A scrapbook,
all the times Harry's been mentioned in the paper.
It's like, this is my burn book.
Exactly.
Of all Potter's terrible moments. Look, I've got all of them here.
I've got all of them there. Put these heart stickers on this one. I thought that made it look really good. Yeah. He's just like junk journaling down there in the Slytherin common room.
That's right. Right. My father sent me glitter pens.
Look at my quill. It's an eagle feather. Oh, Malfoy.
Oh, man.
Malfoy.
He is obsessed.
Yes, he is so obsessed with Harry. It is like when you're reading it like this, it is amazing how like you think of Draco as just being this constant negative presence, but like he really is thinking of like almost Harry at almost all times.
Almost at all times. He's very fixated on this. Yeah. But so then I thought this was a little piece of trivia here, just to keep it in the back of our minds. The moving picture on the front of the cover featured a curly-haired witch who was smiling toothily and pointing at a large sponge cake with her wand.
Do you think she won Witch Weekly's Most Charming Smile Award?
Maybe she did. Somebody needed to take over the mantle after Lockhart stepped down. Yeah.
I mean, he's still alive, you know. He still probably has a very charming smile.
Yeah, there's no reason he doesn't.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right?
The toothily smile. I mean, it's like any smile where you display a lot of teeth would be regarded as toothy smile.
Toothily, yeah.
Yeah, toothly.
Yeah. Exactly.
Doing it right now.
I think it's even described. I think that's how Lockhart's pictures are described.
Oh, it's toothily?
It's toothily.
A toothily grin.
Yeah, toothily grin.
Yeah. Toothily is a word that if you say it too many times, it really starts to sound like just pure nonsense.
It does, yeah.
Truthfully.
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 Yeah.
Oh, that seems like a great publication for like a dentist office.
It does.
Yeah.
Toothfully. Yeah. All tooth, nothing but the tooth.
Oh man, if you're a dentist and you need a marketing department, just let us know.
Yeah, they're like, we've heard that one 5 million times.
It's like when you live in the sphere, that was really not that clever.
Yeah. Okay, guys.
Anyway, so then as we scroll on down though, we get the title of the article that's going to be about Harry, and this is another piece of trivia, but it is titled "Harry Potter's Secret Heartache."
Yes, all about how Hermione is a terrible person and how she is playing Victor Crumb and Harry Potter against each other. And somehow this makes Hermione a bad person, even though apparently she's the most desirable school girl to all the famous wizards.
That's exactly right. I know. So yeah, but before we even get into the meat of that though, this is like classic Rita Skeeter writing though, because it says, a boy like no other, perhaps yet a boy suffering all the usual pangs of adolescence, which on some level is true, writes Rita Skeeter, deprived of love since the tragic demise of his parents, 14-year-old Harry Potter thought he had found solace in his steady girlfriend at Hogwarts, Muggle-born Hermione Granger. So obviously they're not in a steady relationship at all. They're just friends. But the deprived of love since the tragic demise of his parents actually is... True.
Yes.
Because he's been living with the Dursleys and his.
You think she talked to the Dursleys?
Can you imagine?
I
mean, like for all intents and purposes, she does seem like she is all about like getting the story, like getting the scoop.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't surprise me if she like went and was like, you know, what was his childhood like? And they were like, just like slammed the door in her face.
I know.
She's like, that's enough. That's all I need to know.
About all I needed to know. I mean, all she would have to do is just say that she was doing an article on them at all, and I feel like they would tell her without even realizing she was a witch.
Oh, that's true.
You know?
Yeah, we're doing an article. Yeah. Best kept lawn award.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
What was it like raising Harry Potter?
Yeah.
Like, but what does that have to?
Yeah, what does that have to do with anything?
Right.
Yeah.
Does he sometimes mow the lawn? It's like, dang it. I think he has done that chore before.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Of course. But so yeah, it'd be interesting to know how she got that particular information. Also, just like slips in his steady girlfriend in Hogwarts, Muggle-born Hermione Granger. Like that's like a perhaps a bit of an outing for Hermione in a world that like cares about that stuff.
That's true. That's true. Yes, just casually drop that in there. And then it goes on to say that Miss Granger, a plain but ambitious girl, and it's sort of like it's almost like the throwing the ambitious in there is kind of like, I mean, I guess what she's trying to say is that Hermione is cozying up to people of significance.
Yeah.
But at the very least, you know, she's given her ambitious, if nothing else. But this is a huge departure from what she said about her in the past, which was that she was a stunningly pretty Muggle-born girl.
Yes.
Which I guess she includes the Muggle-born. That's like a detail she can't help but include.
Right.
You know, it's just too juicy.
Exactly.
Not to have that in there.
Well, like beforehand, it was like, look at her, even Muggle-born, she's so pretty.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And now it's just sort of like this plain Muggle-born girl, very ambitious. You know?
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
And like in both instances, she's managed to make it seem like a bad thing.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true. But it is remarkable to me how you can go from stunningly pretty to plain.
To plain.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Let's see here. So then we get Crumb, who is openly smitten with the devious Miss Granger, has already invited her to visit him in Bulgaria over the summer holidays, which again is truthful. That is a fact.
Yeah.
And insists that he has never felt this way about any other girl.
Yeah. This is funny because after the article, Hermione's going to be like, how did she know? Like, he did say that about me and he did invite me. And it's like, she is immediate. It's like, you can almost see her now, like Hermione is spot on the money, but you can like see her biases here because Hermione assumes that she must be spying on them and not that like Rita talked to Victor Crumb.
Oh, also
you know,
true. Also
like,
true.
You know,
yes.
like how do you know he didn't just give the interview?
Can you imagine? I cannot imagine Crumb sitting down for an interview with Rita Skeeter and being obliging at all.
Oh no, me neither.
Yeah.
Me neither. I mean, heck, he was in the same room with her earlier, and she just missed the entire opportunity to interview him.
It's true.
Yeah,
it's true. Yeah. Quidditch sensation. What? Then we get this line from Pansy Parkinson. She's really ugly. To which I said, that's subjective and mean. And inaccurate.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it is what Pansy Parkinson said. So you are giving a direct quote there, but then also subjective says Pansy Parkinson, a pretty and vivacious fourth-year student.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Let's maybe not describe the 14-year-olds as vivacious. Okay.
But she'd be well up to making a love potion. She's quite brainy. I think that's how she's doing it. Is this Pansy like potentially giving like the smallest amount of credit to Harry here? Like as if like he is worth being love potioned?
Oh, you're right. You're right. I think that's how she's doing it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. It's like she's like, I need to insult Hermione, but that also requires me giving some credit to Potter. Oh no.
Yeah.
I bet Malfoy was not pleased about this.
This is also like what's the opposite of like a backhanded insult or a backhanded compliment? This is like a front-handed insult or something.
Yeah.
Where it's like she's trying to make fun of her by saying she's quite brainy, but what she's actually saying is like she's really good at potions.
She's really good at potions. It's like unfortunately she is quite smart.
Yes.
I must acknowledge.
Have to tell you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. And then it says love potions are of course banned at Hogwarts, but no doubt Albus Dumbledore would want to investigate these claims. I highlighted that because love potions are banned, and yet when we get to Slughorn, he is going to have one brewed there as if it is indeed part of the curriculum past OWL.
Right.
So it's like they're banned, but they do teach it.
They teach it. Yes,
Yeah.
yes, naturally. Which is kind of surprising. It doesn't really seem like something that's like worth teaching.
It doesn't seem like something that's worth teaching, as it is Dumbledore's theory that that's where Voldemort came from.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It seems like that'd be like right up there with like Horcruxes. Like, let's just go ahead and wipe that from the
Just
shelves.
go ahead and get that out of here. Although, to be fair, Slughorn does describe it as the most dangerous potion in the room.
That is true.
Yeah.
That is true. So he does acknowledge that particular that particular detail, but
Which of course he would know about because he helped Merope get one in form Tom Riddle.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's
quite dangerous indeed, eh?
Right. He would know. Slughorn always there for all the most devious aspects of Tom Riddle's existence.
Poor guy, just trying to be a good teacher, just trying to make connections.
Right. I love this line from Ron though, because he did say this to Hermione in a previous chapter. He's like, Hermione, don't go making her angry.
Yeah.
And then, so sure enough, Rita Skeeter has now written an article about her. So Ron is like, I told you not to annoy Rita Skeeter. She's made you out to be some sort of Scarlet Woman. To which I wrote in, Scarlet Woman, Ronald.
Yeah. Scarlet. That's what my mom calls them.
Ron muttered, whose ears going red. Yeah, it's like for sure that's the first time Ron has ever said those two words side by side before.
I know, it's like maybe he's heard his mom say it but not really understood it, like the full meaning of it, and suddenly it's like in context it's all coming together in his brain.
He's like, I see what mom's always going on about.
Mom's going on about them scarlet women.
Right. But I do love the way that Hermione takes this. She says, if that's the best Rita could do, she's losing her touch.
Yeah.
Still giggling as she threw Witch Weekly onto the empty chair beside her. What a pile of old rubbish.
I know. Honestly, at the end of the day, I don't think it really makes her look that bad.
I agree. Yeah. It's like anybody out there. I mean, shy of like Molly, who I think has like Harry's best interest at heart.
Yeah.
Who is looking at it being like, this young girl broke his heart.
Yeah.
I think that's about the only person who's really reading it. Otherwise, I feel like anybody else out in the wizarding world is like, man, what's this Granger girl got going on?
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. She's doing she's making the rounds here. And anyway, then they go into potions where they are making wit sharpening potions, which I feel like would be nice to have handy. Some of these, I can't believe they don't carry more potions around with them.
That is a very good point. Like, they're wearing the cloaks. Surely they've got all sorts of great pockets, right? As cloaks often do.
As they do. The best cloaks have many pockets.
That's exactly right.
Yes.
So yeah, you're right. Like it almost feels like the kind of thing like where you would just go ahead and like keep like a few like little vials like tucked in a row there, just like, in case you need them.
Right. Yeah. They have all these like crazy powers and stuff, and they like almost never take them for anything other than very specific missions.
Right.
Or whatever. Like, wit sharpening potion. I take that every morning, man.
I wonder if
I call it coffee.
I call it coffee. That's right. Yeah. I've got some.
That's what they're making here. Wit sharpening potion. It's like, so first you're going to want to grind the beans.
Yes. Use a burr grinder, not a blade grinder. You need to pulverize the bean.
Indeed.
Really enhances the caffeine and the aromatic flavor.
Exactly.
I think I went through like 8 different accents just now.
It's okay. Yeah.
But anyway, that is in fact actually true. A burr grinder is superior to a blade grinder for if you're ever grinding your own beans.
Fun fact.
Let's see here. There's something funny though, said Hermione 10 minutes later, holding her pestle suspended over a bowl of scarab beetles.
Oh.
Which I love that little detail because like this is so like literally like finger on the nose. Like she is about to be like wondering what and how Rita is discovering this piece of information as she is actively crushing beetles, which is going to be Rita Skeeter's animagus form. So I love that it's like, it's literally winking at you through the page.
It is.
How could she have known? Known what? Said Ron quickly. You haven't been mixing up love potions, have you? Yeah. Like, oh, come on, Ron.
Of course not.
Don't be stupid. No, it's just, how does she know Victor asked me to visit him over the summer? This is like Hermione doing the most like quiet little it's not like
a little humble brag
like
over
a little
there.
Humble brag.
How does she know? Well, she's right about one thing. He did invite me.
Ron's like, what?
Say what now? That is exactly what he's like, because he starts like grinding the desk.
Yes, he absolutely does.
Yes. Exactly. But this is what I was talking about. Like, she doesn't. There's no like, and maybe it's just Hermione seeing the best in people, but like she doesn't assume that like Victor talked to Crumb.
Yes.
Or not that Victor talked to Rita Skeeter.
Right.
Yes.
He asked me right after he pulled me out of the lake, Hermione muttered, after he'd gotten rid of his shark's head, which I was like, yeah, obviously.
Probably. Although I'd love it if he was still in Sharkhead form. It's like, so anyway.
Sharkhead. Yeah, no, I think that's just like a funny little detail there. But it's also kind of hilarious that like Crumb emerges from the water, removes his shark head, and then is like, so visit this summer. It's like he was really trying to seize the opportunity. It's like, now that I've just saved your life.
Exactly. Really trying to take advantage of this situation here.
Exactly.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Hermione's like, where's Harry? Well done, Harry.
Right. Crumb's like, humph.
Humph. I know. Crumb's reading this article because he also gets Witch Weekly.
Naturally, yeah.
And he's just like, well, what is this? What is this?
He can't be happy about it.
Can't be happy about it. Well, he does confront Harry later about this exact situation.
Right. So, yes. Let's see here. Yeah. So she goes on to say, he did ask if I wasn't doing anything over the summer, would I like to? And then Ron cuts her off and says, and what did you say? He had picked up his pestle and was grinding it on the desk a good 6 inches from his bowl.
I know.
I love that.
Just really not paying attention.
Yes. Yeah. This is another one that I feel like, the long form series, it would be so much fun just to like see this scene unfold in true comical fashion.
Yes.
It's just the comedic effect here is wonderful.
Yeah.
Because Ron at this point, again, still he doesn't really understand what his feelings towards Hermione are, but they're there.
I know. Yeah. He's just, he definitely knows some part of him does not want this to happen. And she's not going to give an answer as to what she said.
Right. Yeah. Yes.
We will not know.
Right. Yeah. So then it goes on to say, and this is Hermione postulating, maybe she has an invisibility cloak. Maybe she sneaked onto the grounds to watch the second task. And then Ron is still fixated. He's like, and what did you say? Now he's denting the desk. Well, I was too busy seeing whether you and Harry were okay too. Which is in fact true. She was all fixated on Harry and Ron too, I guess. Fascinating though your social life undoubtedly is, Miss Granger. I must ask you not to discuss it in my class.
In an icy voice.
Yeah.
Which is like similar to Voldemort's voice, which is always that like cold voice or whatever.
Right. Very chilling. Kind of makes the
cold voice.
Makes the hairs on the back of your neck stand up.
Yeah.
He does take 10 points from Gryffindor here, which is so unfair because it's like Snape. Did you even see who brought the magazine into the classroom?
Obviously not.
Did you even discover that Malfoy still has his in his bag, kind of like, earmarked to all these pages?
Exactly. Yeah,
right,
I know. No, he doesn't. Like, no matter what, Snape will never see the Slytherins doing the bad things.
Exactly. He always catches it exactly the wrong time.
Yeah.
Although this is another one too, where like I am so surprised. Like he must be so sneaky because like surely as they're having this conversation, they're also just like looking around the open classroom as to like their surroundings as to try not to be overheard.
Right.
And Snape is somehow materialized behind them.
And they usually sit in the back of the class. So like I like to think he's just sort of like watching them and like literally sneaking behind the different pillars like, ooh, wait. No. Go.
They look down.
Go, Snape, go.
Go, Snape, go.
Go, Snape, go. That's what he says to himself.
He has little mottos and speaks in third person. Classic Snape.
He leaves his class like, well done, Severus, well done.
He's Snape, quietly whimsical.
Yeah. Like I think that'd be great because like publicly he obviously thinks he must be intimidating and rude, but like if in private he's just like a fun guy.
Right. Yeah. I love that. A mushroom.
A mushroom, yeah.
A fun guy.
Exactly.
Good one. Anyway, but then he does obviously spot the magazine under the table as well. A further 10 points from Gryffindor. But of course, Snape's black eyes glinted as they fell across Rita Skeeter's article. Potter has to keep up with his press cuttings.
I literally crossed out Potter and wrote Malfoy and crossed out his and wrote Potter's.
Nice.
In my book, yeah. Just to give it a quick correction.
Right. Yeah, we want to make sure everything's accurate as per how it actually takes place there. And then Snape goes on to read the article in front of the entire classroom, which this is kind of like one of those funny things. I don't know if everybody had this, like if it's a universal experience or not, but many teachers that I had growing up did pass the threat that if you were caught passing notes, that the note would then be read aloud to the class.
Right.
And that is like one of the most mortifying aspects of the exchange of notes is that it's sort of like you have to be very careful as to be sure that like if your note is read aloud, that it doesn't have anything that's going to be, too incriminating.
Too juicy in it.
Too juicy.
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly. Now that I'm thinking back on it, anyone can take this idea if you want. Just like pass notes, as if they're between two other people and then just get caught on purpose,
Oh, hey. Yeah.
Right?
That's kind of fun.
Sounds great.
Right. Yes. Or just like pass notes back and forth, like kind of like, overtly, but have it like a whole bunch of compliments about like the teacher, or like how great this lesson is, or like tips about how to like better do this particular algebra problem or something.
Exactly.
And so the teacher comes over and it's like, what do we have here? And
what do we have here?
Oh, a squared plus b squared does equal c squared. That's a good point, Dylan.
Right. Yes. Forgot hypotenuse. Yeah.
Yeah.
Formula.
Right. Yeah.
What is it again?
The Pythagorean theorem.
Yeah.
Look at us go remembering. I guess that's really geometry. It's geometry, right?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So that's
okay.
for finding the length of the hypotenuse, which is the line of a triangle opposite the right angle.
Exactly. Yeah. Look at us go.
Come on, guys.
We know things.
We all know it.
Yeah, we paid the math budget.
Yeah, sometimes.
Right.
So all the Slytherins are laughing. I feel like if I was the Gryffindors, though, I'd just be like, wait, I'm confused. Are you guys actually dating? I didn't think that you guys are dating. They'd be like, no, we're not dating. You're like, oh, okay.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, and that's the thing too. It's like these people all interact together all the time. It's like, well, it's just why she got it wrong.
It's
like,
just not true.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like Ron clearly likes her.
Right.
Everyone else knows but Ron.
Everyone knows but him. It's pretty clear, right? Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
what do you think Padma Patil thinks about this article? Actually, she's not really related to it at all. Never mind.
Because she's in Ravenclaw and has no classes with the Gryffindors.
I know. I was thinking like as if like this affected because like she's aware that Ron likes Hermione, but I don't think she is.
Maybe not. Yeah. Maybe word does get out to her that well, no, I was going to say maybe that would impact why her and Ron don't like spark up a relationship in 5th year or something. But even that is not a thing.
Yeah, not really. Not really.
Okay, anyway, so let's keep going. So then Snape goes on to separate everybody. Granger is now beside Pansy Parkinson. Potter, the table in front of my desk. Move now. I love how Hermione is placed with Slytherin and Harry is just now by himself.
Right. Yeah. By himself. So mostly so that Snape can threaten him.
Yes.
Which is the real. Basically, I think what's really happened is that Snape believes that when he caught Harry the other night sneaking around the castle, that Harry is the one who had broken into his office and stole the boomslang skin and the gillyweed, and he's about to like threaten Harry with like, I know it was you, Potter.
Right. Yes. Going through my stores again.
Yes.
Let's see here. So then Harry is just trying to like not focus on Snape at all, and Snape is fully fixated on only Harry. But it says Harry resumed the mashing of his scarab beetles, imagining each one to have Snape's face. Which there we go. We're just personifying beetles. How about that?
Yeah. What do you know?
Yeah.
What do you know? Boom.
Yeah. It's almost as if there's a beetle in the story who is more than we think.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It is like that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Let's see here. Then Snape kind of does his classic thing where he's just sort of like all this press attention seems to have inflated your already over large head, Potter, which is just this is classic Snape seeing what he wants to see, which is just wholly inaccurate. And Harry is trying so hard not to take the bait. He knows that Snape is just provoking him.
Yes. Well, I think he's because I mean he really is. He's really under the illusion that, yes, Harry broke into his office and Harry doesn't even know why he's being attacked in this moment.
Exactly. Yeah. Yes. So it's like, I mean, and honestly, that probably makes it even easier for Harry because it's sort of like, I don't know what you're on about. Like I literally didn't do these things.
Right.
At least not this year.
Yes.
To the boomslang skin.
Yes. But see, even this is so like clever. Coming up here in a second. So, because he goes on and says, to me, Potter, you are nothing but a nasty little boy who considers rules to be beneath him. And it's like, what a nice thing to say to one of your students. Like, just be real open about it. Like, let's be clear. I know you already know this and whatever, but just so you know, I hate you.
It reminds me of there's a line in School of Rock where there's like the boy who does the fashion stuff.
Yes.
And Jack Black walks in and he's like, the little boy goes, "You're tacky and I hate you."
Yes.
And I feel like in my head, that's what Snape is looking at Harry saying.
Yeah. You're tacky and I hate you. Oh my gosh.
We're all wearing the same robes.
We're all wearing the same robes. Come on, Professor.
Yeah. How can I be tacky?
Yeah.
Anyway, but then he goes on to say, pint-sized celebrity or not, if I catch you breaking into my office one more time. And then this is the point where Harry is like, come on, man. He's like, I haven't been anywhere near your office, said Harry. Forgetting his feigned deafness. Do not lie to me, Snape hissed. Well, which sounds also very Voldemort. Yes.
Tell the truth.
Tell the truth.
Yes.
Boomslang skin, gillyweed, both come from my private stores, and I know who stole them.
Do you know what's interesting here is it says Snape hissed, his fathomless black eyes boring into Harry's, which means he's trying to do legilimens here. So he should be reading though is that Harry did not do it.
It's a very good point.
Right?
That is a very good point. Like, I wonder if this is at all infuriating for him. Let's read through that context and see. I mean, no, because he's gonna pull out the Veritaserum. Like, I wonder if he thinks he's off his game or something. He's like, Potter is actively getting the best of me. I must resort to Veritaserum.
I know. That could be. Yeah, I wonder if that's the case. But yeah, I guess maybe because he will eventually explain that like Legilimens is not like reading a book or something.
That's true.
You know,
that's true. Yeah,
but he's certainly trying to do it to him in this situation here. But this is so clever how this is all done, because he accuses him of stealing the boomslang skin and the gillyweed, neither of which Harry actually stole. The boom slang skin
nailed it.
Is an ingredient used in Polyjuice Potion. So this is a hint that Polyjuice Potion is in the story right now. However, it is immediately going to be discredited as being in this story by Harry thinking that Snape's accusing him of him stealing it 2 years ago. Because in fact, they did steal Boomslang skin from Snape's office to make the Polyjuice Potion in Chamber of Secrets.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yep. So it really is like one of those things where it's like, this could be the huge tip off. Like, I mean, we're getting so many of them in this chapter. We got all the stuff going on with like the Beatles, which of course, I mean, there's no real reason to think necessarily that could be, that could be Rita Skeeter, but it is like, you know, winking at you again through the page. And this is basically the exact same thing. So it's sort of like they are guilty of having done this once before. But of course, in that particular instance, it's Hermione who was the one who stole it. And Harry's like, well, I'm not going to like sell her out.
Exactly.
And then with the gillyweed, I think that like at this point in time, Harry is probably learning for the first time that Dobby stole the gillyweed.
Right.
He is like, I did use gillyweed
right
in the second task.
And like now he's figuring out where Dobby got it.
Exactly.
But like in real time.
Right.
But yeah, it's like, even if you were a really keen reader and you were like, oh, like if you read Boomslang skin and you were like, oh, someone's Polyjuice, like then one sentence later it's going to be Hermione had taken the Boomslang skin back in their second year. And it even confirms it for you. They needed it for the Polyjuice Potion, but it just immediately discredits the clue.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
It's
very cleverly done. It really is. Let's see here. So then one more nighttime stroll into my office, Potter, and you will pay. To which Harry's probably like, oh, fine. Like, I am not nighttime strolling into your office. So like from his perspective, it's like, I can agree to that. No problem at all.
Yep. Which is pretty much what he says. Is like, right. Okay. Well, I'll bear that in mind if I ever decide to go in there.
Right.
Which I have not been.
Right. And then this is when it says Snape's eyes flashed. So this must be the moment where he's like, legilimency isn't working.
Right.
And then sure enough, you know, we said it earlier, but then now Snape plunges his hands inside of his black robes. And for one wild moment, Harry thought that Snape was about to pull out his wand and curse him, which would immediately get Snape fired. Then he saw that Snape had drawn out a small crystal bottle of a completely clear potion. So there you go. Like,
of course Snape's carrying around potions.
I mean, he's the potions master.
He's the potions master.
But this also works really well because this is another one of those instances where it's like we've got Chekhov's gun basically being introduced into the story. So we have a situation where a new magical element, which is Veritaserum, is being introduced to us, the reader, not to be used right now, but it will be used before the end of the story. So it's a great way to kind of like put it in front of us in a way that makes sense so that like later on, it's not sort of like, oh yes, Snape, go get that truth-telling serum. And it's sort of like,
oh, you had that?
That's a thing.
Right.
What? Yeah. So basically we get the exposition from Snape, who says, it is Veritaserum, a truth potion so powerful that 3 drops would have you spilling your innermost secrets for this entire class to hear, said Snape viciously. Now, the use of this potion is controlled by very strict ministry guidelines, but unless you watch your step, you might just find that my hand slips. He shook the crystal bottle slightly, right over your evening pumpkin juice, which is just a literal threat that he is willing to put like an illegal substance into a student's potion.
Oh my gosh, I know. The irony of this is some great verbal irony here. While Snape is openly threatening and admitting to breaking the law while simultaneously scolding Harry for breaking the rules.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. Yes. He's like, you think the rules are beneath you, and it's like, and so do I.
Exactly. It's like, oh, you think you're willing to break school rules? Well, I won't stand for it, Potter. In fact, I'll break actual laws to prove that you broke school rules.
I will one up you and make you guilty at once.
I know. Like, can you hear yourself, dude?
Right. Yeah. Snape's a big fan of going down with the ship, is what I'm hearing.
The hypocrisy is big.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, Captain, my Captain. Let's see here. This is like one of those instances where, and I mean, I guess Harry is going to explain that this would be extremely bad or potentially embarrassing for him because he didn't want to land Hermione or Dobby in trouble, or the fact that he was in contact with Sirius, who is, of course, still on the run. And then he's also just kind of concerned generally about the idea that he could potentially reveal that he also has the feels for Cho.
I know, which I feel like would probably be pretty common knowledge. I mean, like, every little rumor in this school seems like it flies around like wildfire, especially if it has to do with Harry.
So naturally, the whole school knows.
So naturally, the whole school knows. And like Harry Potter asked out a girl and she said no. How on earth is that not all over the school? Did Cho keep this completely to herself?
Good for Cho, honestly.
Good for Cho, but you know who else knows? Ron and Hermione and Ginny.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep.
Plenty of people know this information. Everyone must know that Harry likes Cho.
It does feel that way.
Yeah.
I would agree with you. I would agree with you for sure. I mean, yeah, it definitely seems, and it even seems even more surprising that like everybody's giving Hermione such a hard time for her relationship with Crumb. And it's like, they're actually sort of like mutually invested in one another in like an actual way.
Right.
And he is very cool and he is a champion and very talented and a Quidditch sensation and all these types of things. Whereas like Harry gets rejected by the girl that Cedric, the other Hogwarts champion, is dating. Like, yeah, you're absolutely right. That feels like the kind of thing that's like, that is a secret of the lips. Like that is the kind of thing that like wants to escape. All it takes is one person other than his inner circle discovering this piece of information and it's game over.
I mean, it's like one person can keep a secret, two can't.
Right. Yes. And Cho's best friend is Marietta Edgecombe.
Yeah. A known blabber.
Known blabber.
Yeah.
It literally,
Old
it is
loose lips Edgecombe, they call her.
It's literally the thing she does is rats on the DA.
Yeah. It says it right on her face.
Right on her face. Sneak. Yeah. Yeah. They couldn't really go for snitch. In that one, could they?
I know. Yeah, that seemed like that would have been the one. It would have been like, yep, I get it.
Right.
But that's already a different wizard term.
And it's kind of a cool one.
Kind of a cool one. Yeah.
Anyway, so then there's a knock on the door, and Snape is very headmaster in his response. He responds, "Enter."
Yes,
I feel like
that's his usual voice off the icy one now.
Yes. Back to the warm, right.
Warm, gentle breeze Snape voice.
Exactly. Yes. And then the most unprofessional thing imaginable happens, as far as I'm concerned. Why the timing is now is strictly for plot convenience.
Strictly because Harry happens to have been moved right to the front of the classroom to overhear it.
That's exactly right. Because Professor Karkaroff comes in.
Yeah.
And everybody watches him as he walks up towards Snape's desk. He was twisting his finger around his goatee and looking agitated. And basically, they are going to have just a far too important discussion.
Far too important discussion, but it's like almost word for word the same discussion he had 3 nights ago at the Yule Ball or whatever. Not 3 nights ago, however long ago at the Yule Ball.
Remember, it's the very dry March now.
It's the very dry March.
It's been 3 months.
I'm sorry, it's been 3 months, but it's the exact same conversation.
It really is,
and they don't actually say anything.
No.
Yeah.
And I mean, and Snape is right on it. He's like, "I'll talk with you after my lesson, Karkaroff." But Karkaroff interrupted him. "I want to talk now while you can't slip off, Severus," which I guess that's the reason that the book is attempting to tell us why it would happen now. It's like, I'm going to corner you while you're in class because you are too professional to leave your class.
If only Snape was like actually, a teacher who taught class.
And not just use the blackboard.
Yeah, because now Snape, in fact, is just sort of sitting there watching.
Right.
It's not like, well, Carker, I can't talk to you now because I'm giving a lecture about how to make this potion and making sure the students are following along step by step because I want them to know how to do it because I care about them. But that's not Snape at all.
No, it's really not. Let's see here. But yeah, Karkaroff does look extremely worried and Snape looks very angry. So I think the other piece that could possibly make this more tangible is just that like Karkaroff is just actively freaking out. Like,
well, sure.
I mean, he is afraid for his life in this situation because he named names back in the first Wizarding War and is
including Snape's.
Yes. And it is very liable to be heavily targeted when the thing that he knows is coming comes. comes, which is that the Dark Lord is going to return, which is because the dark mark is growing on his arm.
Yeah. And to be fair, that is what happens. They do get him.
They do get him. Yes, he does die.
He does die.
Yeah. But so Harry deliberately knocks over his bottle of what is the most disgusting thing I could possibly imagine. Armadillo bile.
Armadillo bile. How on earth did you harvest this? Why would you assume it's magical to begin with? Are armadillos magical? Is that what I'm hearing?
They are, clearly. I mean, their stomach acid is rather valuable.
It's valuable.
Actually, that means that, the armadillo bile is a vital ingredient for the
wit sharpening potion.
The wit sharpening potion.
Which has armadillo bile and scarab beetles.
Maybe that's the reason everybody's like, it helps, but you gotta.
Yeah.
Not good.
You know what you're drinking though.
Right. Yes. It is
Let me tell you what your wits are sharp about. Don't drink this.
Right. Yes. Yeah. So anyway, Harry is, he's finding a way to make sure that he can, duck down behind his cauldron and mop it up, while the rest of the class move noisily toward the door. And then I guess at this point in time, Snape is willing to hear him out. And he's like, "What's so urgent?" And, Karkaroff responds, "This." And Karkaroff pulls up the left-hand sleeve of his robe and showed Snape something on his inner forearm.
Yes.
Something that, it's possible that Harry is discovering the existence of dark marks before former Order of the Phoenix members are aware of them.
Perhaps because he's going to tell Sirius about it and he doesn't know what it means.
Sirius is like, "Wow, I don't know what that's about."
Yes.
And it's it seems shocking to me because, for one, Sirius spent a lot of time in Azkaban with former Death Eaters. And so it seems like he would have been exposed to the dark marks.
Right.
He was a former Order member and would have been fighting against these particular people. And it seems like a very obvious way to realize. It reminds me of the pirate brand from Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah.
It's you are marked. People have a way of knowing.
I think it's not visible when it's not being pressed.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Yeah. So, or maybe as he's being, as Voldemort is growing towards power. So I don't know.
Yeah. It seems like right now, it's usually it's not just always present on your wrist because that'd be so obvious.
Right.
But it seems like right now it is becoming clearer as Voldemort becomes stronger somehow.
But that could be the case. Maybe even Voldemort is actively pressing the dark mark over and over again as a way to further inform his followers my return is imminent, be prepared for my call.
Yeah, because certainly they're all so ready the moment it happens.
Right, everybody appear, most people appear in the graveyard.
Right on quickly.
Cue. Yeah. Let's see here. But so he says, "Do you see? It's never been this clear. Never since. Put it away," snarled Snape, his eyes sweeping over the classroom. And it's can you imagine how mad he would be in that moment if he happened to spot Harry? And then that was my immediate thought, oh man, it's a good thing he didn't see Harry. And then he sees Harry. So, so we can talk later. Karkaroff spat Snape. "Potter, what are you doing?" Clearing up my armadillo bile, Professor.
Cleaning up my armadillo bile.
Yeah. Great opportunity for Southern Harry.
Yeah.
"Well, I was just cleaning up my armadillo bile, Professor. No big deal."
What do you want me to do? You want me to leave it here? You want me to leave it here? I can leave it here.
I can leave it right here. "What do you want armadillo bile for your next class?" You tell me. Yeah, it feels like you're going to yell at me for leaving a mess. Yeah.
Yeah.
Then Harry innocently straightens up, showing Snape the sodden rag that he was holding. I can only imagine how disgusting this rag is.
I know.
I don't like to think about it.
I don't like to think about it either. I'm hopefully you just threw that away, right?
Or burned it.
I know. So, but I love the whole conversation between Snape literally says, "I'll talk to you after my lesson, Karkaroff." All he says to him is "Look at this." And then Snape says, "We can talk later, Karkaroff." It is later, per the agreed upon terms of after the lesson.
Right. This was not a very eventful conversation. And Karkaroff really just seems to be satisfied to be "Look, you must also be having the same problem as me. Yes? Okay. Good to know. I'll be off now."
Yeah. And then he just leaves and it's what was the point of this?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Basically so that Harry could see something suspicious happen.
That's pretty much the whole point.
It's pretty much the same thing. Yeah. We're trying to drag Snape into the realm of potential people who put Harry's name in the Goblet of Fire.
That's right. Yep. So basically from there, Harry is sort of "I'm not sticking around now. So I'm going to just go ahead and get on out of here and go tell Ron and Hermione what I just saw," which is what he does. Let's see here. Then we have a page break.
Yes, we do. And they left the castle at noon the next day. So I guess that means they had potions on Friday. in case you're keeping track of Harry's schedule. And all three of them had taken off their cloaks and thrown them over their shoulders for, them warm March days.
Yes. We all know them well.
Yep. And let's see, the food. They brought Sirius a big old bundle of food here. A dozen chicken legs, a load of bread, and a flask of pumpkin juice from the lunch table. And honestly, I feel like that could have gotten more, if I'm being honest.
Well, I mean, the dozen chicken legs is pretty generous.
That is pretty good.
I mean, I guess it's like, is that like a dozen, like a plate of chicken wings? Now, I guess now that I think about it, maybe it doesn't seem like that much.
Well, yeah, you're right. Is it like a turkey leg or like a chicken wing?
That's a good point. Yeah. Also, are they serving chicken legs for breakfast?
This is the lunch table.
Oh, the lunch table. I'm sorry. You are correct. Yep, it does.
Yeah.
Okay, it's right there in the sentence. That was just me being unintelligent. Let's see here.
Then we have a disappointing sentence where it says, they went into Gladrag's Wizardwear to buy a present for Dobby, where they had fun selecting the most lurid socks they could find, including a pair patterned with flashing gold and silver stars, to which I'm pretty sure it's supposed to say they went into Gladrag's Wizardwear to buy 365 presents for Dobby.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
As per Harry's own agreement with himself that he'd buy Dobby a pair of socks for every day of the year.
Right. Yep. Exactly. Let's see here. And then another pair that screamed loudly when they became too smelly.
Why would you want that?
It doesn't seem useful at all.
It doesn't.
Especially because chances are that if they've grown smelly, it's also probably like we don't want to draw even more attention to this particular fact. Like imagine, we just got back again from theme parks. I can only imagine that circa 3:00 in the afternoon on a 95-degree day in Florida,
right?
Your socks are screaming.
I know, what if you're not in a position to do anything about it?
I know that it's just sort of like, I'm so sorry for the inconvenience.
Right. Everyone's like, what's that screaming? It's like, my feet smell bad.
My feet smell extremely horrid.
Extremely bad. I wore the socks to let you know it was me. I wanted people to be identifying the scent.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it was me. You're welcome.
It was me.
Great line from Liar Liar there.
Yes.
But yeah, maybe this is just the Cliff Notes. I like to think that we just, we didn't get the full rundown on all 365 pairs, just the two most thrilling.
Just the two. I like the idea that they have at least that many different pairs.
Me too.
Right?
Sock stores tend to be like that though. They have quite the selection.
That's true.
Anyway.
And Harry does have that big pile of gold, so,
That's right, yes.
We have to assume Dobby has just so many socks now.
Right, big sock money.
Big sock money.
Yep.
Yeah, so they make their way out to the stile at the end of town.
What is a stile?
I don't know. I'm imagining I imagine isn't a stile like what is on a fence, right? Fence stiles. Does that sound right?
It could be. I mean, I tend to think of like a turnstile, like
turnstile.
Like the kind of thing that you would like walk through that sort of like counts the number of people who have like entered that day or something.
Oh, you're right. Yeah.
But it does seem strange that they would have one down at the end unless Hogsmeade is extremely big on tracking their traffic.
Well, I doubt that. Let's see. A stile in carpentry and furniture making. A stile is a vertical member, like a post that forms a part of the frame of a door or window, or in a more general sense, a stock can mean arrangements of steps or rungs, often used in fences or walls, and allows people to pass over them. This type of stile is commonly found in rural areas, particularly in the fields or on the sides of roads. Well, all right then.
Okay.
So just like a post in the ground, basically.
Like a post.
Yeah. The stile.
Imagine a post.
Imagine a post.
That's it. They do see the very large shaggy black dog, which was carrying some newspapers in its mouth and looking very familiar.
Yay!
Yay! So exciting. We finally get to have like an actual conversation with Sirius, which compared to all the letters we've been getting all semester, we're about to get huge dumps of information. Yes.
Indeed.
Lots to unpack.
Yeah. I can't think what where you're like. We're like an hour into this and we haven't even gotten to Padfoot returning yet. Which
I know.
Is here where we're at, and it's only going to get more lore heavy.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, we're about to get thick up in here.
Yes, we are.
But yeah, so then we follow Sirius up the rock ledge there, which is a lot easier for him because he has 4 paws and is a dog. But Harry, Ron, and Hermione were soon out of breath, especially because they're carrying a flagon of pumpkin juice, a flask rather.
A flask. I was like, it said flask earlier.
Right. Yes. But it says for nearly half an hour they climbed up a steep, winding, and stony path, following Sirius's wagging tail. Which I like the wagging tail bit because that means that Sirius is sort of like
he's so happy.
He's like, this is the best. It's like we're all just hanging out, we're rock climbing together.
Right.
Oh, good times. Good times.
But half an hour, like, man, it is up there.
It is up there. Yes. So often it is the case. It seems like that they're like traveling, like they'll go into the forest and it'd be like, like a huge amount of time later, and you're like, man, that's a long distance.
Such a long walk.
Yeah,
I know.
exactly.
You think Hermione's keeping her breath, or
yeah, they get to the top, and it's like 12 minutes later, Hermione surfaced.
Showed up. I know.
Oh, that's a throwback to the past chapters where there's a scene where like Harry and Hermione run across the front lawn, and Harry waits for like 30 seconds for Hermione to catch up. And it's like, what?
Why?
We're throwing shade at Hermione's sprinting abilities here.
That's exactly what we're doing.
Yeah.
Yes, but they eventually find a narrow fissure in the rocks, squeeze into it, and find. So it says they squeezed themselves into it and found themselves in a cool, dimly lit cave. Tethered at the end of his rope after was Buckbeak / Witherwings, the hippogriff. To which I'm like, how on earth did Sirius get Witherwings into this cave if Harry, Ron, and Hermione have to like suck it in to get in there?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, okay.
That's a very good question. Maybe there's like an escape route at the back.
Right, yeah.
You know, like a hippogriff chute.
Right.
Yeah.
It's one thing I bet hippogriffs love, it's being underground.
Oh, I'm sure. Yes. Creatures known for their flight.
Yes.
Maybe there's a bat-like characteristic to hippogriffs, you know?
Maybe they can pass through things like the night bus.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who's to say?
Okay, let's see here. Buckbeak, Witherwings, I'm so sorry.
I crossed out literally every time it says Buckbeak, I crossed it out.
Good
and
for
wrote
you.
Witherwings.
Wow, look at you. Speaking in code.
Exactly.
That's the way to do it.
You know?
Yeah. We don't want anything bad to happen to Witherwings there.
Yeah.
But we do get a little flashback to sort of like the pleasantries required for interacting with the hippogriff, which is of course bowing, and then Hermione's able to rush forward and stroke the feathery neck. Harry, however, was looking at the black dog, which had just turned into his godfather. Yay, very exciting. Sirius was wearing ragged gray robes, the same ones that he'd been wearing when he left Azkaban.
Are you kidding me?
It's like, man, those things must be wafer thin by now.
Dude, you're like already wanted for basically like the murder of 13 people. Just go ahead and steal some clothes.
I think you could.
I think you can make it happen.
Yeah, I think at this point in time, it's just sort of worth it. But like also Dumbledore's in correspondence with Sirius as well. Like, and it's like
send the man some clothes.
Right. He can summon like a couple of chintz armchairs, no problem whatsoever. But he can't just like, you know, be like, oh yeah, here's a cloak.
Oh, I know. And it's like Dumbledore is in communication with you, and you like Dumbledore can't send you food either. You know, he's like, I don't know, get some rats or something.
Right, yeah, exactly. It's like, feed yourself.
Yeah, feed yourself, Sirius. What do you want me to do? I found you the cave. Ungrateful little brat.
Camp's Law. Elemental transfiguration. Just make more rats.
Right.
But so then we kind of get like a decent piece of continuity from the way that Sirius first interacted with Harry, Ron, and Hermione when he met them in the Shrieking Shack, where the first thing that he says is chicken. He said hoarsely.
Yeah. Oh, that's the continuity.
That's the continuity.
Is his voice.
It's that like when we first meet Sirius, we're walking that fine line for such like a big chunk of dialogue where it's sort of like it can't yet be revealed that he is not a danger to the trio at all.
Right.
So it's like he's very hoarse. He's very like, everything he says sort of has these like very careful double meanings that can make him still sound menacing while also like being completely, safe. And if anything, loving towards Harry. But yeah, so he kicks off with that after having not seen them for all this time.
It's chicken ! Which means he gets out and he's just like, chicken!
Sirius is about to be the new spokesperson for KFC.
Yeah. He just, Sirius, he loves big chicken.
He just sits in the drive-thru just yelling, chicken!
He's on the chicken council.
That's right. Yeah. Thanks, said Sirius, opening it, grabbing a drumstick, sitting down on the cave floor and tearing off a large chunk with his teeth. I've been living off rats mostly, which, obviously is...
it feels personal.
It feels personal. It's like, do you remember how last year we discovered that my old best friend, Peter Pettigrew, was a rat? Well, I've been eating a lot of them
I've been
lately,
eating a lot of rats.
Just in case.
Just in case, Could I have tracked down other things like deer? Yeah, but like James was a deer, so I couldn't do that.
No way.
I
don't eat deers.
I only eat rats and chickens. Chicken!
I don't know why it's so funny. I'm like imagining him in like a feathered suit for no reason. He grinned up at Harry, but and the grin at Harry, I feel like, is even him being like, "Did you get that, Harry? Did you get that? I'm eating rats."
Yeah, I'm eating rats.
Yeah. Harry returned the grin only reluctantly. "What are you doing here, Sirius?" I'm sure it's exactly what Sirius wants to hear. "Fulfilling my duty as godfather," said Sirius, gnawing on the chicken bone in a very dog-like way. "Don't worry about it. I'm pretending to be a lovable stray."
Yes.
It's like
everyone loves stray dogs.
Yes, this is a uniformly universally shared opinion.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wild dogs always wildly
Always
accepted.
good.
Yeah. He was still grinning, but seeing the anxiety in Harry's face, said more seriously, "I want to be on the spot. Your last letter. Well, let's just say things are getting fishier."
Yeah. Duh.
Right. You don't say.
You don't say.
Wait till I tell you everything that happened between Snape and Karkaroff. But of course, Harry continues to just like place his concern in Sirius's safety. "What if they catch you? What have you seen? You three in Dumbledore are the only ones around here who know I'm an animagus," said Sirius, shrugging, continuing to devour the chicken leg, which I'm starting to think it's kind of like a big leg, because it's like it's saying the chicken leg, not a chicken leg.
Yeah, the same one.
Right.
Also, I feel like his point's pretty good here. It's just like, no one would have any reason to think that dog's a person.
Right. Also, do you remember it took 30 minutes to get up here? You guys took forever. I was quite nimble, if you may have noticed.
You may have noticed I'm a dog.
Yeah.
Yeah. You guys were kind of struggle busting along, Hermione. Don't want to name names or anything, but
then he goes to like dust off his shoulders a little bit, but like actual dust comes off.
Like, bring food. Don't worry about clothes. I'm good. I'm set. I've got clothes.
I'm totally set.
Totally set. Don't need those.
Right.
No.
Right. But if you happen to have a cool jacket I can wear, that's kind of my thing.
Right.
Yes.
Love that.
Anyway, so Ron nudged Hermione and passed them the Daily Prophets. There were two. The first bore the headline, "Mystery Illness of Bartemius Crouch." The second, "Ministry of Witch Still Missing, and Minister of Magic Now Personally Involved."
Yes.
Harry scanned the story about Crouch. Phrases jumped out at him. "Hasn't been seen in public since November. House appears to be deserted. St. Mungo's Hospital for Magical Maladies and Injuries declined comment." To which I was like, why?
Why? I literally wrote, why?
Same.
Like, why would they why would they not comment?
It's like, hey, is Barty Crouch staying with you? I was like, no.
Like,
he's not a patient here. It's like,
right. I can understand if they were like, we can't give you any information about him because, that's like a breach of confidentiality or something.
Which that would totally make sense. Yes.
Right.
It's like, as a patient, it's like, there's nothing we can say. But it's like no comment at all. It's sort of like, you have no reason to like respect his privacy if he's not under your care.
I know. You can certainly say he's not here.
Right. Well, yes. Let me even rephrase that. You can still continue to respect his privacy and also just tell the truth that he's not a patient.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Anyway, they're making it sound like he's dying, said Harry slowly, but he can't be that ill if he managed to get up here.
And then it says, "Ministry refuses to confirm rumors of critical illness." Also, why?
Yeah. It's very confusing. It's like the ministry is so concerned about their PR problems, which I suppose probably all governments are, and yet we still get an awful lot of information about PR related issues amongst officials in government.
Yes. Yes, for sure.
Like, that's mostly what the news is.
Yeah, pretty much. Through the Gryffindor is sponsored by Prolon Life. Look, we've all set health goals to lose weight or exercise more or eat better, but without a plan, they often fade. And that is where Prolon comes in. Its 5-day fasting mimicking diet gives you a science-backed, structured approach to stay on track and see real results. And now they're upping their game with the next gen 5-day program, delivering the same science-backed benefits in cleaner, more convenient, and more flavorful format. So what is it? Prolon is a plant-based meal program with soup, snacks, and drinks that help your body get the benefits of fasting, like giving your cells a chance to reset and refresh without you having to completely skip food. Yay! I just got back from a week at a theme park, which I know is so fun, but it also means that I have not been eating the best. I mean, like, amusement park food is some of my favorite food, but somehow I don't think my PB&J, that's pork belly and jam cone, also stuffed with mac and cheese, was very good for me. So it's moments like these when I'm craving a real reset, and that's where Prolon can help. It is convenient, backed by Nobel-winning science, and it works. And with Next Gen, I know it will fit seamlessly with my lifestyle. So what I like about this system is that you're getting the benefits of fasting, but still have meals scheduled throughout the day that help work as your checkpoints on your journey. So for a limited time, you can be the first in line to experience the new Next Gen at special savings. Prolon is offering through the Gryffindor listeners 15% off site-wide plus a $40 bonus gift when you subscribe to their 5-day program. Just visit prolonlife.com/Griffin. That's prolonlife.com/Griffin to claim your 15% discount and your bonus gift. prolonlife.com/Griffin. So Harry is like, they're making it sound like he's dying. And it's like, well, I mean, I guess they're failing to confirm anything.
Right.
And then he says, but he can't be that ill if he managed to get up here, which this is like, it's like they're playing that game of like, well, these two things just don't make sense. And yet both must be true. And it's like, but they both can't be true. And it's like, it's because they both aren't true.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. So they're not, like you are trying to connect two dots that don't connect.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Then Ron chimes in and he says that Percy obviously is working as Crouch's personal assistant, and that he says that Crouch is suffering from overwork. And then Harry chimes in, mind you, he did look ill the last time I saw him up close, said Harry. And this is kind of hailing back to, I believe it was after
his name came out of the goblet.
Yes. And he kind of has that like up close look with him where his like eyes look very sunken. He's like, he's definitely like at that point in time was already under the Imperious
Yes,
curse.
which is that's what I wrote here. It's like he did look ill. He looks ill because he's under the Imperious curse.
Right.
Yes.
And do you imagine, because like in my head, I'm like, Barty Crouch Jr. is under the Imperious curse for like 12 years or whatever while he's living there. But it seems like part of what you would be able to do as part of the Imperious curse is dictate whether or not the person under your control is able to like care for themselves at all. And it almost seems like Barty Crouch Jr. is actively like unwilling to allow his father to tend to himself in any way.
Right.
Despite the fact that you probably could do that. Like when Barty Crouch Jr. is discovered, it's not like he is like ragged or unhealthy or anything like that.
Well, he has Winky too.
He does also have Winky caring for him. That's a good point. Let's see here. But so then Hermione chimes in and is saying, getting his comeuppance for sacking Winky, isn't he? Said Hermione with an edge to her voice. Let's see here. I bet he wishes he hadn't done it now. I bet he feels the difference now that she's not there to look after him. And this is sort of like, it's like, again, we kind of have like a canonical reason as to why Barty Crouch Jr. could be looking worse, but it's through Hermione's
Barty Crouch Sr.
Barty Crouch Sr. I'm so sorry. It's through Hermione's otherwise very kind of skewed lens that's going to be like, see, this is like what a house elf can do for you.
Yeah.
It's also kind of hilarious that that Hermione is like hyper fixated on the fact that Winky is like let go by Barty Crouch Sr. when also what she wants is elf freedom and rights.
I know,
and
right?
It's like when Dobby was freed by Lucius, that was like a very good thing.
Right.
And in this case, it's like Winky doesn't have to work for that terrible person anymore. It's like you should regard that as like a good thing.
Right. Yeah. She's been freed and now she works at Hogwarts. So it's like, that's better. But now she's just mad at him for firing her, even though you don't want people to have house elves. So
a little bit confusing.
A little confusing there, a little bit.
Yeah. Yep. So then Ron chimes in to kind of give a little context to Sirius. Hermione's obsessed with house elves. And then Sirius looks very interested in this piece of information. He says, Crouch sacked his house elf. And they kind of go on to kind of get like the piece of, they give him like, the rundown on everything that happened at the Quidditch World Cup. And so then Sirius is like, let me get this straight. You first saw the elf in the top box. She was saving Crouch a seat, right? Right, said Harry, Ron, and Hermione together. But Crouch didn't turn up for the match. No, said Harry. I think he said he'd been too busy. And Sirius is kind of like pacing around the cave in silence. And this is where you can kind of start to see that like Sirius does have a lot of intelligence. Like he's really taking the information. He's really contemplating everything that happened. Like Sirius, he's never described as having been an Auror before, but it seems like he would have been a good one.
Seems like he would have been, yeah, for sure.
So Harry, did you check your pockets for your wand after you left the top box? And then we get an from Harry instead of his usual yeah. Probably a warmth situation because he's around his
exactly
godfather.
Right a little extra gusto when they're there.
Exactly.
But
so he says no, I didn't need to use it until we got in the forest, and then I put my hand in my pocket and all that was there was my omnioculars.
Yes. And he's saying whoever conjured the dark marks stole my wand in the top box. And Sirius says it's possible and accurate.
That's literally what I wrote. Yes, and correct.
And accurate.
Yes, amazing. Yep.
Yep. So there you go. Sirius is on the money here. They just can't figure it out. And then it's so funny because they're like, well, that's a possibility we haven't considered. Like, who was there? Let's run it down. And it's like, again, they're on the right track. They just can't figure it out because Barty Crouch Jr. is under the invisibility cloak.
Exactly. And even everything Sirius is about to tell him is not going to help them narrow in on Barty Crouch Jr. either, because the supposed fate of Barty Crouch Jr. is that he died in Azkaban. So it'd be very hard to come to the conclusion that that's probably who was up there with him, especially when the invisibility cloak is involved and otherwise the seat just seemed vacant. Let's see here. So then Sirius is asking who else was in the top box, and then we're kind of rattling off the list here. We've got the Bulgarian ministers, Cornelius Fudge, the Malfoys, and then Ron all of a sudden was like, Lucius Malfoy, it must have been him. But Sirius doesn't bite on that at all. He's just sort of like, anyone else? And Harry's like, no one. And then follows, and then Hermione follows up with, yes, there was Ludo Bagman. And then Sirius kind of surprisingly doesn't know that much about Ludo Bagman. He says, I don't know anything about him other than that he was beaten for the Windborn Wasp. What's he like? And then Harry chimes in, he's okay. He keeps offering me help with the Triwizard Tournament.
Does he now?
I wonder why he do that. Says he's taken a liking to me, said Harry. Said Sirius, looking thoughtful. And of course, this is a huge misdirect, because what we will eventually come to learn about Ludo Bagman is that his interest in Harry has everything to do with Ludo Bagman's gambling problem, and the fact that he has sunk a whole lot of money into this thing and he's underwater. And if Harry wins as a total long shot in the tournament, then he can possibly find his way out of that debt.
Yeah, out of debt there. So that's all he's doing here, but it's like the whole thing with Ludo Bagman. Yeah, it's just another like keeping suspicions up on him. It's like sure, Ludo Bagman was there, but when's he going to take Harry's wand? Like when he's commentating the match?
Exactly. Yeah. Yes, that would be very difficult for him to have done. But then the other thing that makes it look even worse is that they do see him just before the Dark Mark appears, and they're kind of recalling this, and it's like I think that he even seems like he was like a little bit like frazzled. Yeah. The moment we told him about the riot, he went off to the campsite. How'd you know he went back where he disapparated to? Is what Hermione shoots at Ron, and then Ron's like, "Come off it! Are you saying that Ludo Bagman conjured the Dark Mark? It's more likely that he did it than Winky," said Hermione stubbornly. "Told you," said Ron, looking meaningfully at Sirius. "Told you she's obsessed with House." And then Sirius held up a hand to silence Ron. When the Dark Mark had been conjured and the elf had been discovered,
holding Harry's wand. Yeah, what did Crouch do? Yeah, and so this is what he does. He says, went to look in the bushes, but there wasn't anyone there. But this is inaccurate now, because he does find Barty Crouch Jr. in the bushes, and he puts the pieces together, what happened, and he then, I think he covers them up with the invisibility cloak, right? Or just lies?
I think he covers them up with the invisibility cloak. I think that's what happened. Yeah. So this is also, I think this is good though on Sirius. Like it's like Harry, Ron, and Hermione, I think, have the immaturity of like getting into these like little spats. Like they're kind of in these like little contests to see who can like almost be like the smartest and remember the most important details, and their hunch versus their hunch and all those types of things. And Sirius is just sort of like cutting right through the crap, if you will. Like he's just sort of like, not now, like focus on what's important. And he's asking the right question here.
Right.
Like he's sort of like, what did they do next? Tell me more about that.
Right.
And of course it's very difficult to know what's happening over in the bushes, but he's trying to really get like a good sense for how the scene unfolded, which I think is exactly what a good detective would do.
Yes. And he's on it right away. It's like, of course, he'd want to pit it on anyone but his own elf. And it's like, that makes sense based on the information you have. But of course, that's what he thinks he's doing. He's really like, he thinks he's looking for basically anyone else to blame this on, but can't find anybody.
But instead it's the other way around.
Right.
And he's blaming it on Winky because he doesn't want to blame it on his son, who he's not supposed to have.
Right. Because it incriminates himself.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, at some point he probably just needed to fall on this sword, but I guess that is what he's trying to do when he eventually is killed by Barty Crouch Jr.
Right.
Yes, he's basically just like, I'm sorry, I did bad things. I got to cut. Like, it's getting bad now.
Right.
Yeah.
Then we have kind of an ironic or possibly hypocritical exchange, if you will, because Hermione's going to chime in. She's like, he sacked her just because she hadn't stayed in the tent and let herself get trampled. And then Ron is sort of like, Hermione, will you give it a rest with the elf? And then Sirius shakes his head and says, she's got the measure of Crouch better than you have, Ron. If you want to know what a man's like, take a good look at how he treats treats his inferiors, not his equals, which I actually think this is a great sentiment, just for people in general.
Yes.
Like, out in the real world, it's sort of like, not the person you're vying favor with, but the people who like look to you for support. How do you treat those people? I think this is a very important thing to kind of like, to keep in mind about how you actually read other people. But the thing that I find this to be a little bit hypocritical on behalf of Sirius is that we also know that Sirius treats Creature terribly. And I mean, Sirius has his reasons. Creature has his reasons. Like I mean, there is a lot going on there, and I don't think that everybody has the complete stories, and that causes rifts that then are otherwise just like, the trauma's too deep, for both Sirius and Creature to find acceptable middle ground.
Right.
But I suppose what you could assume based on this is that Sirius doesn't hate Creature because he's a house elf.
Right.
And I think that should be the takeaway. It's like Sirius does not treat Creature well, and it's to his demise because Creature has no reason to then support him back either.
I mean, it is literally to his demise.
Yeah, literally. Yeah. Yes. That's what I mean. Yeah. But yeah, it's basically like what it means is that Sirius doesn't like Creature because Creature walks the beat of his more dark-minded family.
Right. But conversely, this is also like if you just apply it to then Harry, if you wanted the measure of a man, look how he treats his inferiors rather than his equals. It's like Harry always treats everyone like people.
Everyone. Yes.
Like especially like Dobby is the big shining example, of course, where like him treating Dobby like that frees Dobby from the Malfoys. It lets him get the gillyweed.
Yep.
It lets him get rescued from Malfoy Manor.
Yep.
And then the fact that he buries Dobby as well wins Griphook's attention so that they're able to break into Gringotts and he's able to destroy the cup.
Yes.
So it's like all of those like little acts of kindness on Harry's part like pay huge dividends down the line.
Exactly. Yeah. And I mean that's almost more just like I don't even know if like good karma would be the best way to describe it, but it's like Harry's not doing it for those dividends. It just happens to be the case when you treat people well, it makes everything about the life around you better.
Right.
So anyway, I do love that. Let's see here.
Yep. And then Sirius is pointing out, more problems, all these absences of Barty Crouch. He goes to the trouble of making sure his house elf sits him a seat at the Quidditch World Cup, but doesn't bother to turn up and watch. That is because he never intended to show up. Winky's not saving Barty Crouch Senior a seat. She's there babysitting Barty Crouch Jr.
Exactly. Who just is there, but under the invisibility cloak.
Right.
But then you've also got this situation where you learn from Sirius that Barty Crouch Sr. worked very hard to reinstate the Triwizard Tournament, which means that like sort of behind the scenes prior to all of the rest of this ruckus happening, this is something that Barty Crouch Sr. was otherwise, presumably very excited about. Like, he clearly saw this as being like a worthwhile endeavor.
Yeah.
And then points out that he stops coming to that too. So that would be like if you had this very enthusiastic, like international relations official who was like, let's bring back the Triwizard Tournament. Let's get Beauxbaton and Durmstrang and Hogwarts all in the same place. Let's have a good tournament. Let's give people something to be excited about. And then all of a sudden just he's uninterested. He's not showing up. He's sending replacements in his stead.
Yeah. The reason for that is the Imperious Curse this time, though.
Yes, exactly. Yep. It's not like Crouch. If he's ever taken a day off work because of illness before, I'll eat Buckbeak.
Witherwings.
Good save. Wow. Man, I would be so bad at this.
It's okay. That's why I had to correct my book.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Yeah. But yeah, so then Harry is like, you know Crouch then? I was like, oh, I know Crouch already. He said quietly, he was the one who gave the order for me to be sent to Azkaban without a trial.
Yes. What? Said Ron and Hermione together. You're kidding. No, I'm not. Crouch used to be head of the Department of Magical Law Enforcement. Didn't you know? So this is the anachronism we were talking about before, where this is where they learn that he used to be the head of Department of Magical Law Enforcement.
Yes. So what you mean by that is that there was a line in the previous chapter that was talking about like, why are all these dark wizard catchers investigating Snape's office, believing that Barty Crouch and Moody are two different people and not just the same person. So they think it's the actual Alistair Mad-Eye Moody and Barty Crouch Sr., the ministry official, not Barty Crouch Jr. under disguise of Mad-Eye Moody.
Right.
But the thing is that right now, when Sirius explains it to him, this is the moment when the rest of them is learning that he used to be a dark wizard catcher.
Right. So yeah, they didn't know to call him a dark wizard catcher before.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yep. And then we also learned that he was tipped for the next minister for magic. He's powerfully magical and power hungry. And you could only imagine the like eyebrow raise on Harry's face right there, because he then chimes in, "Oh, never a Voldemort supporter," he said. "No, Barty Crouch was always very outspoken against the dark side, but there's a lot of people who are against the dark side. Well, you want to understand, you're too young." And Ron's like, "Everybody keeps telling us that. Can you just try us?"
I know. And then I love this. Sirius is like, "Okay."
Yes. A grin flashed across Sirius's thin face, and I was like, classic Sirius.
Classic Sirius.
It's like this is like what Sirius wants. It's like he doesn't want to take the step to burden the children with more information than they should know. But if they want it, then he's like, "Okay, I'll tell you."
This is basically exactly what happens when Harry gets to the Order of the Phoenix. Like Molly's like, "We can't tell them anything," and Sirius is like, "I'll just tell you everything. It's cool."
Yeah, it's all good. It's all good. I know this one. He's my godson.
Yeah.
And then we shift pages here to literally, I wrote at the top of this page, "Holy Lore Drop Page Batman," because I could have just highlighted the whole page.
The whole page.
There is just nothing but huge amounts of information going on here.
Yeah, huge exposition page.
Yes.
So let's see. We'll start at the top. So Sirius is trying to describe what it used to be like when Voldemort was powerful last time. You don't know who's working for him or who's a spy or anything like that. You know we can control people to do terrible things. You're scared for yourself, your family, your friends. There's new deaths and disappearances, and Muggles are dying, and the Ministry is in disarray, and there's confusion, and it sounds really bad.
Right. Yes. Terror everywhere. Panic. Confusion. That's just how it used to be. And I mean that's the length that really, the Marauders, James, Lily, like everybody was like entering into. And so we talk a lot about how small Harry's classes are, how there's 5 Gryffindor boys, 5 Gryffindor girls. So, if you want to extrapolate, you've got approximately 40, students per year, 280 across the whole school. It's like, you can see where this might be like artificially lower than usual, because even if it's not for the deaths, just the terror, like people don't necessarily always want to bring children into a world that is so in flux.
Right. Yeah.
Because it's just like, you don't want to like subject them to something that they don't need to be subjected to. So you can definitely imagine why there might be fewer children than usual.
Indeed. And then we get more information about Crouch, saying he rose quickly through the Ministry, started ordering harsh measures, basically gives the Aurors permission to kill and use the unforgivable curses. So he's basically just, fighting fire with fire. And people... he says he can use the unforgivable curses against suspects. So even just people you think might be up to something.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's a pretty big yikes right there. That's probably not okay.
Right.
But it seems like people are behind him. It's like they think he's going about things the right way. This is the only way to do it. We got to catch these people.
That's exactly right. Yep. So then when Voldemort disappeared, it looked like it was only a matter of time until Crouch got the top job, which totally makes sense based on everything else that was happening. And probably, I suppose on some level, if there is so much fear, just having somebody who is kind of coming at it with such like an aggressive perspective, I can see where that gives you a position, if nothing else. But then something rather unfortunate happened. Sirius smiled grimly. Crouch's own son was caught with a group of Death Eaters who'd managed to talk their way out of Azkaban. Apparently, they were trying to find Voldemort and return him to power.
So this, I think, is the first mention of Barty Crouch Jr.
Yes, like his existence hard stop at all.
Right. Yes. So here we go. The culprit is on the page.
Yes, indeed. Yep.
Yes.
But this is, again, it's kind of like one of those interesting ones where it's like, it sounds like Sirius isn't exactly sure whether or not Barty Crouch Jr. was in fact like a full-blown supporter at this point in time. And it's kind of like, was Barty Crouch Jr. the perfect person for these Death Eaters to just sort of like keep with them? Because if he's caught with the other Death Eaters, their main adversary at the Ministry is Barty Crouch Sr., and that is going to make him look bad,
right,
and lessen his position. So it's like, it almost makes you wonder whether or not like his original inclusion isn't just like propaganda, but then his actual like switching of sides or becoming a proper Death Eater in earnest, which we know he obviously ends up becoming, isn't more to do with like the wedge that his father has already kind of like driven in his family just by not being a very present father figure.
It's going to be hard to know exactly what's right. I kind of think I think the wedge has been drawn. I think he's a Death Eater by the time they catch him.
Okay.
I mean, when you hear him in the court, of course, he's going to be screaming, father, father. But it's like, is he acting or is he being genuine? And it's like, well, he's a really good actor because he's pulling this stunt off the whole year.
That's exactly correct. But that would be the other thing to my point, or at least to open the door to the possibility that, like, if he is just genuinely a young innocent boy who was in the wrong place at the wrong time, and he's pleading with him, and his father's basically like, you are no son of mine, then it's like, if you're at that point, it's like, oh, well, I got nothing to lose. May as well just join this crew now.
Yeah. But exactly.
Yeah. So good. Yeah. One way or another. Feedback. Let us know. Which way do you see it?
Yeah.
Nasty little shock for old Barty, I imagine. Should have spent more time at home with his family, shouldn't he? Ought to have left the office early once in a while. Can't you know his own son?
Yep.
And, it's like, even that's kind of interesting too, because it's like, there's going to be the line where we find the kind of deranged Barty Crouch Sr. out in the woods, and he's going to be telling like a tree that, like, yes, his son received 12 OWLs, like, very proud, which means that, like, maybe like he was proud of him, but like was not showing him that he was proud of him.
Right.
I suppose that's possible. Then it says that Sirius began to wolf down large pieces of bread.
Wolf them.
I like the inclusion of the word wolf there.
Yeah. Agreed. And Harry asked, was his son a Death Eater? Which, yes. So it's like the way they've, like, it's been phrased is that he was caught with a group of people who I would have bet my life were Death Eaters, which is a weird way to phrase that.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, that's what he says. The boy was definitely caught in the company of people I'd bet my life were Death Eaters. Like, this is a weird sentence because of what's going to happen in a few pages from now, where he's going to mention Bellatrix and stuff. And like, those are just like known Death Eaters, and she's one of the people. So it's like,
she's also his own cousin.
Yeah. And also they're related to each other. So
like, yeah, she would have been born Bellatrix Black, and she marries into the Lestrange family. So she's only a Lestrange by marriage.
Right. And notice in this particular passage how Barty Crouch Jr.'s name is not mentioned at all. It's always just Crouch's son.
Right.
So it's not going to tip you off that they have the same name, because once you have that information, then you could pretty quickly decipher that who was on the map.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's very key in this breakdown of things. And it's very clever that Sirius is painting Barty Crouch Sr. as such a villain in this scene, and Barty Crouch Jr. is sounding like a serious possible victim of the situation.
Exactly. Yes. And it also makes Senior look very heartless.
Yes.
In the process, where you're sort of like, oh, I really like this guy. Who likes someone who didn't pay attention to their son?
Exactly.
It's like, it's not a quick way to win over anybody's love or affection as a character.
Yeah. I mean, like, in a lot of ways, you have like Barty Crouch Sr. is almost like the good guy version of Umbridge in some ways.
I think that's very well phrased. Yeah, because it's like what we always say about Umbridge is that it's like she never really is like a proper Death Eater herself. She just takes her vigilance like way too far. Like she's like, applied to the right circumstances, you'd like to think that Umbridge would just be like effective.
Right. Well, she is effective at doing things. That's what makes her such a terrible villain.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. But so it sounds like Barty Crouch Sr. maybe had like a scooch more overall like charisma. I don't know if maybe that's the right way to describe it, or maybe he's just like his timing is just simply better.
Yeah, I mean, he's trying to take down Voldemort. Like, Umbridge never seems like she's trying to take down Voldemort. Like, she's, she doesn't like Harry. She like, it's like a very like, I am working for this side, but no one could ever align me with Voldemort kind of approach she has going. It's like just what's best for her own power trip.
And that's exactly it. Yeah, because she's really just trying to seize power, of her own accord, and she's probably twisting every situation to be like, no, I'm just following the letter of the law. And it's like, are you though?
Yeah.
Are you? It sounds like
I'm just carrying out the Ministry of Orders. I'm not for Voldemort. The Ministry is, of course, against Voldemort and whatever. This is just what the Ministry is doing.
Right.
Yeah.
So I suppose to Crouch Senior's credit, like, it sounds like maybe he hates dark magic and the dangers that this presents to the overall wizarding world. And at least
he hates it, but he authorizes the Aurors to use it.
It's also a good point.
Yeah.
Also a good point. Yeah. Let's see here. So then Hermione basically asked, the obvious question that you would kind of wonder, did Crouch try and get off his own son? And Sirius let out a laugh that was much more like a bark, since he's since he's a dog. And he's like, Crouch let his son off? I thought you had the measure of him, Hermione. Anything that threatened to tarnish his reputation had to go. He had dedicated his whole life to becoming Minister of Magic. You saw him dismiss a devoted house elf because she associated him with the Dark Mark again. Doesn't that tell you what he's like? Crouch's fatherly affection stretched just far enough to give his son a trial. And by all accounts, it wasn't much more than an excuse for Crouch to show how much he hated the boy. Then he sent him straight to Azkaban.
Yep.
So I do think that he's exactly right here. It's like he held a trial for his son basically to be like, I am not affiliated with him. Like, it's like
let the record show.
Let the record show that like my hard line does not cease at my own blood.
Right.
You know, in kin. Yep.
Gave his own son to the Dementors. Ugh. So pretty terrible, and yet also actually the right call because he is quite bad.
Yes.
You know.
Yep. So he was screaming for his mother by nightfall because Sirius can hear this while he's in Azkaban. That's another one of those questions though, where it's like, is this all still part of the act? Like, is he still just trying to come across as innocent?
Yeah.
You know,
it's so hard to know. Well, it says he gave his own son to the Dementors, and it's like asked Harry quietly, and it's like, but like if he's a Death Eater, what's he supposed to do? Like, it's a really tough situation. But like, if he is a Death Eater, then like, isn't that what you'd want him to do?
What? How do you mean?
Like if Barty Crouch Sr., it says like, you know, Harry's like, he gave his own son to the Dementors. Like, you know, what an unbelievable thing to do. But like, if his son is truly a Death Eater,
oh sure,
right? Yes. Then isn't that the correct outcome?
That's why I think that there's something interesting to the idea of him still having like a measure of innocence, or at least standing with one foot on both sides up until what would be this moment.
Yeah,
and then it's really like, you know, it's that father-son relationship that is ultimately making, like, you know, Barty, I mean, because that's what you get here, like in this saga. I mean, it's the same way that like the Dursleys are neglecting Dudley by the way that they've so mistreated him. He
does tell Harry though, like I told you, Potter, if it's anything I hate, it's a Death Eater that went free. And he's like, you know, he hates all the people in Azkaban who like never went and searched for my master or whatever. Right. Which makes it sound like when he got caught, he was indeed searching for his master.
I guess that's a fair point.
Right.
That's a fair point. Yep. That's true. Okay, so let's see here though. It says, he can't be more than 19. They took him into a cell near mine. He was screaming for his mother by nightfall. He went quiet after a few days though. They all went quiet in the end.
Yep.
Except when they shrieked in their sleep. It just sounds terrible in Azkaban.
It sounds quite terrible. I mean, it's like forced magical depression.
It really is. It painfully always reminds me. There's a scene in the movie Shawshank Redemption where like all of the new prisoners are brought in, and basically like all of the existing prisoners are heckling them in the night, and one of them basically ends up like crying for his mom.
Yeah, and they've all bet on who it's going to be.
Yeah, and it's just I remember watching it even as a kid, and I mean, it absolutely, I mean, it's like burned into my retinas. It is just a devastating scene. So whenever I imagine this, that's what I'm kind of picturing.
You know what else is very on the money about Shawshank in this thing is that like at one point the main character, Andy Dufresne, gets sent to solitary confinement.
Yes.
And it like, they say it like never really affects him, and the reason is because he has like music in his head.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like, you know, music as ever, a magic more powerful than anything we teach here.
It's so true.
It's like, I'm sure Dumbledore would tell you that music is another, I bet music is another solution to Dementors.
Oh, wow.
Right?
That's a great thought.
Can you just sing at them?
You can just sing at them. Yeah.
I don't think they would like music.
Okay. So now I'm on a different trip. So I'm thinking of the movie Euro Trip. But like,
that's a very different movie.
It's a very different movie, but I'm just imagining like a Dementor coming around the corner and Harry, Ron, and Hermione being like, my baby takes the morning train. Anyway, so if you get that joke, you get that joke. And if you don't, which most people don't, you're like, please, Ben, never sing again.
The Manchester United football team, huh? Only the greatest team in all the land. Woohoo!
Anyway, so we're in Azkaban. So he's still in Azkaban, Harry said. No, said Sirius dully. No, he's not in there anymore. He died about a year after they brought him in.
You really have to do some. This is where it becomes very unfair to the reader.
It
like,
does.
What are you supposed to guess here? Like, you get the information that Barty Crouch and his wife visited him in Azkaban, and like maybe you could piece it together, but it's quite I don't know if you really can.
I know. Yeah. I mean, it's like that basically throws you off the scent entirely. And again, we still haven't been given his name,
exactly.
which that would have been so useful.
Yeah.
But also it would have been like a spoiler. Like I think people would have connected dots very fast.
Yes.
But this apparently makes sense in Sirius. He's like, they lose the will to live, which I mean, is not hard to imagine based on everything we know about the mentors.
Yep.
I mean, Harry can barely stay conscious around them. So a lot of times I do wonder, like, what are these people doing there? It must be just terrible. The boy looked pretty sickly when he arrived. Crouch being an important ministry member, he and his wife were allowed a deathbed visit. And, again, like that's the kind of thing where it's sort of like even the fact that Crouch is sort of like a higher up there. It's surprising that he would have sent his own son and then also would have attended this particular occasion.
Yeah.
But still, I mean, it's sort of like, yeah, that makes sense. I saw Barty Crouch half carrying his wife past my cell. She died herself, apparently, shortly afterwards. Grief wasted away just like the boy. Crouch never came for his son's body. The Dementors buried him outside the fortress. I watched them do it.
This answers maybe a question that makes it sound like if you are killed under Polyjuice Potion, you won't transform back.
I think that must be the case.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because otherwise it seems like if it would have taken them more than 1 hour to dig the grave, then it'd be like, wait a second, who's this person?
Right, exactly.
Like that's not it.
Yeah. Also, it's like I watched them do it. The Dementors out there with shovels.
Literally, I said a Dementor with a shovel is oddly hilarious to imagine.
Yeah, right.
This
is a backbreaking workout here.
I know. Yeah, this almost I don't know what it would be, but I almost feel like we need like a Dementor pin that's just got like a big shovel. It's just sort of
right.
or like a Dementor with like an excavator. A Dementor driving an excavator
absolutely
would be amazing.
Right. Watch them do it.
Watch them do it.
It doesn't seem like they could do magic and, like lift the dirt magically or something.
No, it certainly doesn't. And it also, I'm like, what kind of like muscle, do you have? Digging holes is hard.
Digging holes is hard, man.
Yeah. It's like, they're like taking turns. Do you think they sweat?
Yeah, probably not.
Right. Yeah.
Anyway, things are going bad for old Barty Crouch Jr. Son dead, wife dead, family name dishonored, and so I've heard. Since I'd escaped, a big drop in popularity. Once the boy had died, people started feeling a bit more sympathetic towards the son and started asking how a nice young lad from a good family had gone so badly astray. And it's like, oh, a nice young lad. You are being painted such the wrong picture about Barty Crouch Jr.
You really are.
Yeah. 12 OWLs, what a good lad he was. It's like introducing him as the victim of Barty Crouch Sr. is like so smart.
Yes, it really is. Yeah, it's just going to get better. Like once Harry goes into the pensive and you see more of that, it's just going to be like, oh, poor kid.
Yep.
But yeah, so anyway, this ends up being the reason that Cornelius Fudge gets the top job.
This is the reason.
Yeah. Which also kind of makes sense because I would imagine that lots of other highly capable wizards who would have been in the orbit of Senior probably would have been like, he's it. Like that's the obvious shoe-in. So then the fact that you've kind of got this like jovial, pompous Fudge who's just sort of like in the fray, it's sort of like, well, if it's not Senior, then who is it? And it's sort of like, I guess it's Fudge.
Like,
all right.
Yep.
All right.
But it also means that in some tiny way, Voldemort then ends up being a little bit responsible for Fudge being the one who becomes minister.
Also true.
And then the ministry ends up being so poorly run that Voldemort's able to take over again.
Right.
So it's like it is very full circle. His influence is like deep,
Right.
Yeah. Like you want to think of it as all these other people, but at the end of the day, this is all still Voldemort at the bottom of it.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, then we learned that Crouch was shunted sideways into the Department of International Magical Cooperation.
Shunted sideways? What are you talking about? That sounds more important in some ways. What does Fudge even do?
It's hard to say. He's just a figurehead. Yeah. But yeah, it does seem like that is, if that is where he was shunted, if he was on this like grand upward trajectory, and this was like 12 years ago now, it means that he's been working the same job for over a decade. So he is proper stuck.
He is proper stuck.
I
mean, he was basically heading for president, and it sounds like got shunted into the treasurer of the
Secretary of State.
Secretary of State.
Yeah. Which it's
it was a pretty big job.
How embarrassing.
What a failure, you know?
Right. Well, let's see here. So there was a long silence. Harry was thinking of a way Crouch's eyes had bulged when he looked down at the disobedient house elf back in the wood of the Quidditch World Cup. This, then, must be why Crouch had overreacted to Winky being found beneath the dark mark. It brought back memories of his son and the old scandal and his fall from grace at the ministry.
Yeah, but that's like, this is Harry coming to a false conclusion because the real reason is just because that Winky almost let Barty Crouch Jr. escape.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, although it's like it's such a problem because if he hadn't hired Winky, like you know, it would have been so much harder for Barty Crouch Jr. to have ever been sprung free by Voldemort and Wormtail.
Right.
I guess like if Winky's there, is she able to defend against Wormtail? Probably, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, could be.
Yeah, I could see that. Okay, so then we got Moody says that Crouch is obsessed with catching dark wizards, Harry told Sirius. Yeah, I've heard it's become a bit of a mania with him. If you ask me, he still thinks he can bring back the old popularity by catching one more Death Eater.
Moody says Crouch is obsessed with catching dark wizards. Did he say that? Because I guess that would make the anachronism less true than if they've told him that. I guess that would be true because he'd be talking about his dad.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, maybe we missed that.
Okay.
Well, whatever.
Either way. But even still, it seems like when Sirius tells Harry, Ron, and Hermione, they seem surprised.
That's true. You're right.
So I don't know. Maybe
didn't you know? Yeah,
right.
You're right. They still seem surprised. Okay, well, whatever. It's a confusing series of facts, which don't make a huge difference either way.
No, that doesn't. Yeah.
Yes.
Let's see here. So, and then he sneaked up here to search Snape's office. Ron triumphantly looked at Hermione. Yes, that doesn't make sense at all, said Sirius. Yes, it does, said Ron excitedly, but Sirius shook his head. Listen, if Crouch wants to investigate Snape, why hasn't he been coming to judge the tournament? Which is just kind of like an obvious question. It's like, why come in like the dark of night versus just being there to be involved with the thing that you're specifically there to do?
Yeah, to be involved
the event you brought back.
Right.
Yes. That's the other thing, too, that Sirius points out. It would be an ideal excuse for him to make regular visits to Hogwarts and keep an eye on him.
Right. And then Harry's like trying to latch onto this foothold. Like, oh, do you think Snape's up to something? I would love that.
Right. Look, I don't care what you say. Dumbledore trusts Snape. Oh, give it a rest, Hermione, said Ron impatiently.
Yeah, this line is great.
I know Dumbledore's brilliant and everything, but that doesn't mean that a really clever dark wizard couldn't fool him.
Yep.
And I have in all caps just true.
Yes.
Because it is actively happening.
Exactly what is happening the whole book.
Yes. He's like literally one of Dumbledore's own closest allies is being impersonated
by a dark wizard.
By a dark wizard under his own roof.
Yes.
It's like, oh, Dumbledore, come on. How are we missing this?
Yes. So this is another great example of Ron being a seer, being very accurate with all of his predictions.
Yeah, there you go. That's it. Yep.
But then, so Sirius speaks up and like gives his own misgivings about Snape. He's like, ever since I found Snape was teaching her, I've wondered why Dumbledore hired him. Snape's always been fascinated by the dark arts. He was famous for it at school. Slimy, oily, greasy-haired kid he was. And Harry and Ron grinned at each other.
A little like, imagine like a little like low five, like, yeah, he is.
That's right. Yeah. You know
Snape knew more curses when he arrived at school than half the kids in 7th year. That's a line we come back to a lot because I think it really does speak to the fact that I think the big thing here is that Snape has kind of an incredible arc and it is at the absolute heart of the story because it's like it is Snape's betrayal of Voldemort that is so hard to comprehend until all the pieces ultimately click back together.
Yeah.
And Snape does have a genuine and deep love for Lily, but he also does have a passion for the dark arts. Like,
right.
Despite the fact that Lily actively rejects this aspect of him. And it's one of the huge reasons that Lily ultimately is sort of like, listen, you have to go your way and I have to go mine. And that's really it. And it's like, this is a key point of division, but it means that like the only thing that turns Snape. Like Snape would have been a powerful and dedicated Death Eater. The only thing that turns him is that Lily is the target.
Right.
Which I think also is supposed to illustrate the point that love is so vitally important. But, Snape's coming to school. He's there for a very specific purpose.
Absolutely.
And,
yeah, but even this line too is revealing about Sirius. Is that when he says, "Ever since I found out Snape was teaching here, I've wondered why Dumbledore hired him." So like he has no idea what Dumbledore like reasons could be, which again just means that like Lupin and Sirius were just so thick about Snape and Lily's relationship.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. It's just not something that they really would have given like a whole lot of credence to. And I mean, all I could think there is that possibly like Lily was just so good and universally beloved that like maybe like they were imagining like Snape and Lily's friendship more as like
pity,
like pity or something. Which to be fair, I also don't think that's really who Lily is. I don't think she's the type of person who would be friends with somebody out of pity.
No, I don't think so either. I mean, I think they definitely were just actual friends.
Exactly. So I think it's just sort of like the fact that Sirius and Remus just can't see it that way. I mean, even going back to Prisoner, we've brought it up many times before, but Lupin makes the comment like, jealous of James on the Quidditch pitch, I think. And it's like, yeah, that's it.
Yeah, sure. But then this is where Sirius like almost contradicts himself a little. He says, Snape was part of a group of people who nearly all turned out to be Death Eaters, and then he starts counting them off, and he mentions Rosier and Wilkes. Rosier is actually a character in the Fantastic Beast movies, right? Vinda Rosier.
Yes.
By Poppy Poppington or whatever.
Yes. Someone who me and you were like, wow, she is just beautiful.
Yeah, she is.
Yeah, but so that's an interesting one too, because I guess she seems French, and so do the Lestranges. So at some point in time, there must be what?
That's just funny. It's like it says Snape was in this group, right?
Yeah,
and it says Rosier and Wilkes and the Lestranges. So like the Lestranges and Rosier, that makes sense that they're all hanging out because they're all the French kids.
Yes,
basically.
It definitely does. But there must be some reason they would have had like an exodus from like Beauxbaton.
So I guess so. Like probably they left France because they were involved with Grindelwald.
I mean, that's a very good point. Yeah. It's like maybe those.
No,
families.
but Lita was already going to Hogwarts, right?
Yes. You're right.
Right.
Lita was going to Hogwarts.
So they leave France at some point.
Right.
Well, Corvus Lestrange.
But it's a different branch of the Lestrange family.
You're right.
Though.
It's his brother.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. They don't come from the same parents.
You're right. Well, no. Yeah. Bellatrix. Yeah, you're right.
Rodolphus
Lestrange came from Corvus Lestrange from the Fantastic Beasts movies. Brothers, half of the family tree.
Exactly.
Right.
Yes. So it's just possible that Corvus Lestrange was living in
London. That Corvus Lestrange was living in France and his brother was living in London.
Got it.
Yes, that's it. Boom. Got there. Nailed it.
Yes.
Haha. Take that. In any case, Rosier also French and reunited with the Lestranges. So there you go. But go ahead.
I was going to say, so the fact that it says the Lestranges, a married couple, it's like it's your cousin.
It's your cousin. And a page ago, you said the boy was definitely caught in the company of people I'd bet my life were Death Eaters, but those people were the Lestranges, who you are now confirming are Death Eaters.
Right.
Yeah. So that's confusing.
Yes, it is very confusing. Then we get a reference to Avery. From what I've heard, he wormed his way out of trouble by saying he'd been acting under the Imperius curse. He's still at large. But as far as I know, Snape was never even accused of being a Death Eater.
That's not true. Karkaroff did accuse him, and Snape was a Death Eater.
Yes. Would that trial have happened after Sirius was imprisoned, though?
Yes. So he just doesn't know.
Right. Yes. And Snape's certainly clever and cunning enough to keep himself out of trouble. So
that's true.
A little bit of respect, though, from Sirius to sort of at least be like game respects game in that particular capacity.
Yeah. And then all the pieces really on the table because Harry then tells him that Karkaroff looked really worried. He showed Snape something on his arm, and I couldn't see what it was. And Sirius is like, he showed Snape something on his arm? Well, no, it's like I literally wrote under this, Sirius must know what this is. But he says, well, I have no idea what that's about. And I'm like, really?
That
you don't know?
So unlikely.
It seems so unlikely.
Yeah.
Like the Order never figured this out.
This is going to be something we're going to have to like pay strict attention to going forward because it's like, is this going to be a detail like, where later on Moody will say something while they're at headquarters being like, we saw the Dark Mark myself. Or, I don't think that happens, but I'm just trying to think of some occasion where there's like an offhand comment that references that.
Later in this book, Snape is going to show Fudge the Dark Mark on his wrist and say like, this burned an hour ago, the same as every Death Eater. And Fudge is just going to be like, whatever.
Okay.
Tattoos
can do that. You should probably put some lotion on it.
Right. Maybe. Well, I guess Fudge maybe doesn't know what it is. It's like Snape's telling him like all Death Eaters have this when it burns, we're supposed to go to him.
Right.
And he's just sort of like, well, I'm ignoring that.
Right.
So,
yes.
Yeah. So maybe people just don't know about the marks, which I guess Dumbledore would. Maybe they only know about it after Snape switches sides, at which point Sirius, I don't know. I don't know. Seems like word's not out.
Yeah.
About the marks.
Okay. So
because it would be such an easy way to check if people were.
It seems very easy.
Yeah,
absolutely. Okay, so let's move forward then. There's still the fact that Dumbledore trusts Snape, and I know Dumbledore trusts where a lot of people wouldn't, but I just can't see him letting Snape teach at Hogwarts if he ever worked for Voldemort.
But that is inaccurate.
It is inaccurate, but I do think that like it's because Sirius doesn't know the most vital piece of information.
Right.
So it's like Sirius is missing the most vital linkage, which is the relationship with
exactly.
with Lily.
I mean, aren't we all? Isn't that just the biggest secret that's being kept from us the whole time?
Right.
And then let's see. Why are Moody and Crouch so keen to get in Snape's office? And Sirius is like, well, I wouldn't put it past Moody to have searched every office when he got to Hogwarts. He takes his defense against the Dark Arts seriously. Just more examples of Sirius like vouching on behalf of Moody. And after you've spent an entire book like being wrong about Sirius, now you're taking him very seriously about who he is actually wrong about.
Right.
Yeah.
And it seems like Moody's persona just continues to fit with all the like unusual behaviors. Like it really is the ultimate cover.
It is.
Because all of the weird things that he does, it's sort of like, yeah, well, that's just Moody. Like,
that just makes sense.
Constant vigilance.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly. Even earlier in this chapter, I think we skipped over it. Harry's like, he was thinking maybe he should start taking a leaf out of Moody's book and only drink from his own hip flask or whatever. And it's like, right? Yeah. Oh, maybe Moody does have a good point. It's
exactly.
Like, nope. That's his grand trick. That's how he's doing it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. And then we get more validation from Sirius about Moody. Always brought people in alive where possible. He was tough, but he never descended to the level of the Death Eaters. Crouch, though, he's a different matter. Is he really ill? If he is, why does he make an effort to drag himself up to Snape's office? And if he's not, what's he up to? What was he doing at the World Cup that was so important that he didn't turn up at the top box? What's he been doing while he should have been judging the tournament? And yeah, so these are all just really good and confusing questions.
They're very good and confusing questions. Some of them are important. Some of them are not. It's all meant to confuse you, which it does.
Right. But
Yes.
but it's also doing a good job because I think Sirius is sort of doing like a Sirius and the story are doing a good job of like keeping what has otherwise been quite a lengthy book and with a lot of moving parts. I think this is a good way to sort of just like, let's just like recap in case you've forgotten. You know, it's
right.
like we do this all the time with TV shows where it's sort of like, you know, a lot of times it's not just like in the previous episode, here's what happens. It's like in today's episode, here's information from the episodes, you know, 1, 8, and 12 that all have information that we're going to need to make all the context make sense. So it's like,
right.
let's just keep refreshing you so that you're not forgetting all the important deeds. Yeah.
Exactly. Yes. Let's see. I can try. Or then he tells him to try and get to write to Percy, see if he can get any information about him. Ask him how he's doing. He says, "Oh, I can try." He says doubtfully. Percy loves Crouch, and you though. Don't forget last chapter. Percy was very concerned about Ron getting out of the lake.
That's right. Yes, he's like pale as a ghost, when Ron shows up.
Yep.
And you might try and find out whether they've got any leads on Bertha Jorkins while you're at it. And it's like, again, this is like one of those moments where it's like literally Harry is in the cave. He has heard Voldemort and Peter discuss Bertha Jorkins' death.
I know.
I know. We're at least by the pages we have, we are now 532 pages in, and that happened on page like 6.
Yeah, page 6. And this is where it's like, and Harry just cannot remember the name they said. And he's like, he's not even sure if the dream was real. Right. And it's like, if you could just remember that the person they were talking about was Bertha, you would know exactly what happened to her.
Right.
And like, because so much more information has come out. But in any case,
right.
Here we go. This is good information from Sirius. Blustering on about, he says, well, maybe she's changed since I knew her, but the Bertha I knew wasn't forgetful at all. Quite the reverse. She was a bit dim, but she had an excellent memory for gossip. I love that like distinction. It's like, you know, when is it said like she was an idiot?
Yeah, I think it was. I want to say it was earlier when they were like talking through the fire.
Okay.
Yeah, the like little exchange there because it's always one of my favorites. I just think it's hilarious.
Yes.
But this is like one of those things where you're exactly right. It's kind of like this is somebody who like wasn't particularly invested in like education or academics or anything like that, but more just like the social hierarchy.
Right.
You know, like read the gossip column, so
right.
to speak. Like possibly even like a Rita Skeeter type of persona where it's
right.
it's sort of like big on eavesdropping, big on, you know, having the latest juicy detail.
It's just that classic it's like they're not dumb, they just don't care about school.
Yes, exactly. Yep. So.
Yeah, so it says, I can see her being a bit of a liability at the Ministry of Magic. Yeah. Dude, you have no idea.
Right. Yeah. Maybe that's why Bagman didn't bother to look for her for so long. There's really no excuse for this, though. It's like if a member of your team, you know, especially like a government official has gone missing, it's like that's high alert immediately. I
mean, yeah, absolutely. You know, it's probably like a matter. It's pretty inexcusable. I'm trying to imagine, like, you know, if just a coworker stopped showing up to work, like what responsibility would you feel to investigate their missingness?
Well, I mean, so I think it depends. Like a coworker is one thing, but if it's like somebody, if you're head of their department and they stop showing up, like it'd be like, what happened?
What's going on?
Right. But I mean, I guess there's a question, like, you know, I mean, and again, this is like a government agency, which I think takes it to like an even higher level. I'm trying to imagine, like, if you were working at like an office building and somebody just stopped showing up all of a sudden, it's sort of like,
yeah.
Do they just run off?
Like, I know. Well, because she stopped showing up after she takes an actual vacation.
Right.
So like for the first little while, you just don't, you know, she's just not there on purpose.
Right.
In an expected way. And then it's like maybe a few days after, we're like, shouldn't she have been back yet?
Right. Yeah. Maybe she really liked it in Albania. Just just stay and open a surf shop right there on the corner.
Right. Yeah. You know, like people do in Albania. Albania surfing, really big deal.
Maybe. Yeah. Who knows? Yeah. Does it even have coastline?
I don't know.
I don't know a lot lot about the geography of Albania.
I don't know. Or if the Albania in question is the country of Albania or the country of Scotland.
Right. Yeah. Right. Exactly. Yeah. It's a good question too. Yep. Let's see here. But then at this point in time, Harry is like realizing that it is 3:30, although his watch isn't working anymore because it hasn't been working since he spent over an hour in the lake.
Can't get new batteries.
Right. Yeah. Hard to find over at Hogsmeade. They don't sell batteries. You better get back to school, Sirius said, getting to his feet. Now listen, he looked particularly hard at Harry. I just don't want you sneaking out of school to see me here, all right? Just send notes to me here. I still want to hear about anything odd, but you're not to go leaving Hogwarts without permission. It would be an ideal opportunity for someone to attack you.
Yep. Although it's such interesting advice from Sirius, like after he's been grinning at everyone for breaking the rules and eating rats, I feel like he just like ends that with like a wink or something, you know? No, you're not to be going out of bounds, wink.
Definitely go out of bounds.
Yeah, definitely do it, you know.
Right.
Yep.
Then Harry's like, no one's tried to attack me so far except the dragon and a couple of Grindylows, Harry said. But Sirius scowled at him. I don't care. I'll breathe freely again when this tournament's over.
False.
Yeah, no, I don't think that's true.
You will not be breathing freely again for the rest of your life. Yeah.
Which is just a year.
Which is just... no.
If you're talking about me amongst yourselves, call me Snuffles, okay? We love a good code name around here.
We love a good code name around here. Snuffles.
Right. We are always very committed to the bit. And that's like one of those where, again, I feel like there's not enough credit given to the reader that like we can follow the code name.
Yeah.
It's always like, Snuffles, and it's sort of like, in case you forgot, Sirius is Snuffles.
Yeah. I guess that maybe they haven't rechristened Buckwings to Witherwings just yet.
I don't think, maybe it's not happening.
Maybe it hasn't yet, but it's, you know, it's not that it'll matter. They will never once say it without also including the forgetfulness.
Exactly.
Part.
Yep. Let's see here. I'll walk to the edge of the village, see if I can scrounge up another paper. He transformed into the great black dog before they left the cave, and then they walked down the mountainside with him, across the boulder-strewn ground and back to the stile.
Back to the stile, that post.
Yeah, don't forget about that post.
You know the one. You know the place.
Yeah. It's like if you've seen it, you know it.
You know. Yeah.
Here he allowed each of them to pat him on his head. This is something that, like, I'm a big dog lover, and I like to pat all dogs on their good boy heads, but something feels awkward about this to me when you know it's a person.
Yeah.
It's like, good boy.
I know.
It's like, is that condescending? Or like, I don't really know.
Put it on a show here. Does he actually enjoy it?
Right. Yeah. Let's see here. And then Ron and Harry and Hermione start having a conversation. It says, what if Percy knows that stuff about Crouch? But maybe he doesn't care. It'd probably just make him admire Crouch even more. Yeah, Percy loves rules. He'd just say that Crouch was refusing to break them for his own son. Percy would never throw any of his family to the Mentor, said Hermione severely. I don't know.
That's a little bit of foreshadowing.
Percy's really ambitious, you know. I mean, honestly, we've made this video before. There is a huge argument for Percy to have been in Slytherin.
Yeah. I mean, and in case you're wondering, just as a refresher, for the very next year, like there's the whole scene with Molly, you know, saying that Harry's as good as one of her sons and all of that, and seeing the dead Harry Bogart in the Order of the Phoenix. So like in some sense of the word, Harry is like considered family to the Weasleys.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And then like, you know, Ron's in Dumbledore's army. And then once Marietta Edgecombe, the snitch,
the sneak.
Yeah. Blabs. Percy is indeed there, ready to send Harry and you know, whatever, to effectively Azkaban, or at least expel him from school.
Yes. Yeah. Take him into custody, maybe.
Take him into custody in some capacity. So, like, I mean, Harry's not like his blood relative, but like Ron's going to be in trouble for this too. Yeah. And he's definitely trying to take Dumbledore to Azkaban. So, Percy would never send any of his family to the Mentors. Not true.
Not true.
Yeah, at least, I mean, it is possible he's imperious, but
right. Yeah, and I think that's one of the big arguments to be made as well. Kind of like a fun little thing though is that we do have a video that talks about Percy being a great fit for Slytherin, and a big piece of it is this ambition line here, because that is the notable trait of Slytherins. And is it not the case that your wife Beth once upon a time gave you a cameo from the actor who plays Percy?
Yes, Chris Rankin, I think.
Yes, yeah. And it doesn't he sort of like give like a wink as if like he has actually like seen the video, and he's like, oh, I know what you mean, wink.
Yes,
and it's sort of like, wait a second,
interesting. Yes.
Has he watched our video? That's so cool.
That'd be great. That'd be great.
So we don't know for sure, but
we don't know for sure.
That's just the theory. Poor old Snuffles, said Ron, breathing deeply. He must really like you, Harry. Imagine having to live off rats.
Yes, his tiny revenge on Wormtail.
That's it. There you go. And that brings us to the end of chapter 27. JD, do you have a review for us?
I sure do, Benjamin. Let me pull it up here on my phone. All right, today's review comes from Katie and Littles.
Hey, Katie and Littles.
Their review is Resorted. Hey, brother, loving the podcast. It's been such a bonding opportunity to listen with my son. We've got a question. Do you think the Sorting Hat would resort someone if they asked? With so many people throughout the book sharing attributes of multiple houses, do you think anyone ever feels like they should be in a different house?
Man, I think that's a tremendous question. We literally just talked about it with Percy. And maybe even like as time had gone on with him, you know, he developed more of that ambition. And then you of course have the very famous line from Dumbledore when he's talking to Snape saying like, you know, we might sort too early.
Yes, I think he says that. However, so it is I think people possess multiple traits. You know, it's so easy when you're reading the books to be like, oh, Ravenclaws are all like smart. And that means that like because you are one thing means that you're also not the other things.
Right.
Or whatever, which is, you know, just Hermione herself is a shining example of someone who is very brave, but also very smart and could have gone into either house or whatever.
Right. And I mean, with Hermione, I always go back to that big line, you know, because it is a lot in what you value. You know, so even Neville, for example, it's like, you know, because it's like he's not exactly brave in the beginning, but because he's not brave, it's almost like he does value the attribute he wants more of.
Right.
But then on the flip side, I think that you've got Hermione, who it's like she may even take some of her academics, you know, not for granted to the point where she like doesn't care about them, but it's like she just is smart, like, you know, but that doesn't necessarily mean that she values intelligence above other things, which I think is on proud display at the end of book 1, where she's talking to Harry and she's like, cleverness in books. You know, it's like bravery and friendship. Like, those are more important things.
Yeah, those are more important things. Like she says it right there for you, the audience, to see that like the things that are important to her aren't even the things that she's good at.
Exactly.
Right.
Yes.
Well, she is good at those things. Let's be clear. But
right. Yes, she is. Yeah. Absolutely. Yes. Yeah.
That said, there is writing about the Sorting Hat that where in the Pottermore archives, where the Sorting Hat has said that it to this day is certain that it has never made a mistake.
Yes.
So it does not think, I do not think it would resort you, because it is arrogant enough about its own decisions that it does not think it's gotten anything wrong.
Right. So. Right. And I mean, like on some level, it's like one of those details where it's like I can almost understand, like, sorting. I mean, I've gone through this in such a huge way too, because like I would have been a Slytherin for such a long period of time, and then since then it's sort of like I grabbed attributes from each of the various houses myself that I feel like work well for me, and so it's like sometimes it's almost like I wouldn't want anybody to like ever place themselves in buckets, but then also the idea of houses gives you like senses of belonging and community and family and people who you can work together with because you are like-minded and you do like value similar things. Like that's like it I can see arguments on literally both ends of the spectrum,
right?
Like the big question per Dumbledore's comment to Snape, to me would almost be like what Dumbledore I would argue is suggesting in that moment is that Snape could have made a good Gryffindor.
That's what he's saying.
Like, I mean, yeah. And that's a really big one, because I do think that like, if all of a sudden, Snape shows up, clearly he's kind of got this like eye for dark magic. Clearly it's like a fixation of his, like, we talked a little bit about Barty Crouch in today's episode, Junior, that is, like the possibility that maybe this was just like a highly gifted student who felt neglected by his father. Eventually, like, you're choosing party lines. Your dad's on one side and you're rejecting your father's beliefs, and so you choose the other side. It's not a hard narrative to follow. I mean, that exists out here in the real world. You can see it anywhere. It's like, was Barty Crouch Jr. enamored with the dark arts? Because it seems like Snape does have a passion for them.
Right. For sure he does.
From a young age. So that's the other thing too, is like, is there a practical application for the dark arts? Is there a world where it doesn't always have to be used for conquering things? Like it is a field of magic. It has a very ominous name, but maybe it's the wrong name.
Right.
Like maybe there are places, or the Department of Mysteries, for example, like maybe,
right. Yeah. Is there just like a dark arts door or something?
Precisely. Right. Yeah. Where it's like, you can go and use these things to better comprehend the magical world, you know, and the limits that we have involved with it. So it's all very interesting, because you're sort of like, what would Snape have been like? Because my argument would be that like, maybe he could have been a Gryffindor. Maybe that would have changed his relationship with James and Sirius and Remus and Peter, because then they would be comrades. They'd be sleeping in the same dormitory. They would not have this Slytherin Gryffindor rivalry that runs deep. There's like all these things, but then Snape likes the dark arts. Like, that's part of who he is as a person. So it's hard to say how that could have potentially changed things, or if he just would he have become the Peter? Would he have become the mole? Like, like, I mean,
who knows? Right. I mean, he eventually kind of is, the mole,
right? Yes,
on both sides in a way,
right?
So I think really though, it's like, the whole point is that like Dumbledore says, I think we sort too late, but it's like, even that seems like a weird take, because to me, like the Sorting Hat itself is always preaching like unity. It's like the houses must like come together,
right?
So it's like, whether or not you were sorted, whether or not, like, what I think is that as you grow, it is very likely that you might have fared better in a different house at different stages of your life, as per what the houses are said to stand for. But like, maybe to the Sorting Hat's credit, that is the point. It's like, yes, this is how I sorted you when you were 11, and these are the friends. But as you grow, you will not be the same people you were when you were 11, but you'll have those friends, and you might have been now if I sorted you, you might be suited to a different house, but I didn't sort you now, I sorted you then, and now you're different people who are still friends. And because you started out in the same spot, you grew into different people, and now you have like a sense of unity amongst different kinds of people.
Exactly. And I do think it's a really good point to bring up the fact that the Sorting Hat does preach unity amongst all of the ranks. Like that's a very key detail to keep in mind. And it's even a funny one too, because like, we like college sports, for example. So like, it's funny how you can have rivalries amongst like your team versus their team, even professional sports. But then all of a sudden the Olympics comes around, and all of a sudden it's like, your country.
Right.
And it's sort of like, doesn't matter where they play in the off season or the regular season for that matter. It's kind of like, now you can find like the new unifying factor. And I imagine if we ever find intelligent species from other planets and have competition with them, that will be very Team Earth.
Everyone's going to be Team Earth, you know?
Yeah. So it's interesting the ways in which unification can occur, and obviously that at the end of the day, I think that's what's important.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Let's find that. That seems like a good note, but and also brings us to the end of today's episode.
It sure does. So thank you as always for joining us for this episode of the pod. Make sure you join us next week for chapter 28, The Madness of Mr. Crouch, here on Through the Griffin Door.
Today's episode was edited by Ethan Edghill. Vaishon Brandon does our art. Catherine Stein is our production manager, and the show is hosted by me and Jonathan Carlin.